Greetings, my brothers and sisters. Sending gratitude to all of you who are joining in today to accompany us down the rabbit hole of self-exploration through plant medicines. My name is Ryan Sprague, and I'm here to tell you that your frequency is now set and tuned to explore psychedelic medicines and the impact they've made among the countless psychonauts exploring the last true frontier. Buy a ticket and take a ride with me as we get true first-hand accounts of the experiences, benefits, risks, and transformations taking place within the ever-expanding world of psychedelic medicines on This One Time on Psychedelics. Hey guys, I wanted to stop by real quick and share a new program that I am launching called Connect with Cannabis. Have you stopped getting the results you want with cannabis? Do you find yourself having very high highs one day just to be met with low lows the next? Is your challenged relationship with cannabis leading to cycles of anxiety, procrastination, and patterns of dependency? For many cannabis lovers, their relationship with cannabis began with a sense of curiosity. A curiosity for what this plant showed them about themselves, those around them, and the world at large. The challenge is that traditional ceremonial cannabis use was all but stamped out in the history books, especially when Prohibition began. In turn, this has led to an epidemic of cannabis lovers becoming confused with what cannabis truly is, what it takes to have an enjoyable experience each time they connect with her, and how to improve their results with the plant as a whole. By learning how to connect with cannabis throughout the framework in this program, you will gain awareness on how you can unlock her full power, maximize your positive results with her, and feel confident in your relationship with her once again. The program consists of 8 weeks in which we will be doing deep dives into how to get the best results with cannabis and allow you to see the connection between your relationship with cannabis and the relationships throughout the entirety of your life. I'm hoping to see you there, guys. This program is going to be absolutely amazing, and I'm looking forward to meeting all of you in person. See you there. Strolling onto the set to journey with us today is a man who has gone from attempted suicide, drug addiction, 5 times college dropout to award-winning speaker, coach, and community builder. He is a world-class transformation coach where he helps individuals take back the reins in their life to become sovereign beings once more, is a big proponent of conscious, responsible plant medicine connection, and is the founder of the Sacred Warrior Tribe, which is dedicated to creating leaders who are committed to saving the world and creating a better tomorrow for future generations to come. So please help me in welcoming Marshal Gillen to the show. Marshal, my man, how are you?
Brother man, thank you so incredibly much for being here. I am so incredibly humbled. I got to be honest, man, I spent the last 5 years traveling around the world speaking on stages, and that may have been the most blushing, most geeked out little just like fangirling I've ever done. It was absolutely incredible. Just from an entrepreneur who's done this for 8 years, man, just listen to your intro and how you start the show and how dialed in you are. Like I truly mean it. It's an honor to be here, man. It's you're a master of your craft, brother, and it shows, dude. I'm like, okay. So Ryan's playing like that. I'm like, okay. All right, so I got to step my game up, dude. Truly an honor to be here, man. Thank you so much. That's incredible.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. That really means the world, especially coming from you, as I've done some background into you and seen what you've done and what you've accomplished and where you've come from and where you're at now. And I'm so excited to have you on, man. Like when you hit me up, it was, again, I'll say it for like the third time. I think we mentioned it in your podcast, and I think we mentioned it when we were chatting before, but it was immediate, like attracts like, those feelings are true, right? And you can feel them for a reason. And so, I immediately checked in and it was like, oh my God, yes, best friends, and
100%,
and we'll get into what I think Soul Tribe is and, why a tribe is getting important right now. But what I'd love to start out with, right, is what I really love about the concept and the subject of psychedelics is that it's in most cases, people did not grow up having the best view of them, right? Because of Western societies and what they were touted
100%.
as and all of these things. So I love asking the typical question of how did your journey get started with psychedelics? Specifically because I feel in the realm of psychedelics, it's always so different, right? Rather than like, oh, I went to school, I did this, I did that in a regular, type of podcast. This is such a weird subject, that the path that everyone took to get from most likely, hey, just say no, drugs are bad, to now interacting with them consciously is incredible.
100%.
I'd love to hear about that.
Well, first off, excellent question. It's kind of a long-winded answer, but I'm excited to break it down and kind of make this relatable for everybody else. But before I do get started, I grew up I'm 36 right now at the time of recording this. I grew up in the Midwest on a farm. My parents got divorced when I was 2 because my dad was a severe alcoholic, beat the hell out of my mom, left. My mom got remarried when I was 4 years old, moved to a farm with this guy, and my stepdad was a monster. He would tell me how worthless I am every day. He would tell me that I'm going to be another worthless Mexican like my dad. And then this is why it's relevant, because he would always say, oh, you're going to be just another worthless pothead like your dad. And so from the time I was very little, before I didn't even know what pot was, I had this concept of potheads being bad. It's funny, I didn't do that. I literally didn't do this on purpose, but I don't know if anybody's going to see this, but I'm wearing a shirt right now. It's a DARE t-shirt. Yes. It says DARE, whatever, to keep kids off drugs. Yes. And so growing up in the Midwest where I came from, any concept of at all of, there was no plant medicine. I didn't learn that term until like 3 years ago, right? There was nothing. It's like, dude, you don't do that. Like that's for dirtbags. Those are scumbag people. That's for people that don't have their life together. It's a gateway drug, which I just saw in the news. They actually said that it may be a cure to getting people off of drugs. Yes. We can talk about that later. But and so that's like my idea. Okay, that's how I grew up, and I think that's kind of how most people grew up in my era for sure. And so now fast forward to I go do all the things that I was taught was going to make me happy. I made a lot of money. I had a big brand. A lot of people knew who I was. I had all the success. And so in 2019, I'll never forget it, Ryan. I had been in San Diego for 12 years at this point. At this point, I'm living in a luxury high-rise downtown San Diego, 21st floor. It's overlooking the ocean. And coincidentally, it's overlooking both of the bars I used to work at when I thought that my life was never going to change. Yeah. And it was like the dream spot. And I just got done hosting this event, 100 and some people there, and I crushed it. And I'll never forget, it was like 9:30. I walked into my condo and I closed it and I looked out that beautiful view, and I had never felt more empty in my entire life. Now, this is why it's interesting, because we know that we're energetic beings, right? I didn't know this in 2019. If 2019 Marshall had listened to whatever this podcast is about to become, he probably would have been like, bro, you need to fucking relax. Okay. And so for the listeners, I want people to understand, it's like, I grew up in an era where it was very masculine, very, stuff your feelings down, don't whine, don't cry, just play the cards you're dealt. And then I became this business success where I was like, all bougie. I'm wearing the watches and I'm doing all the things, and I'm in the big circles, and $250,000 invested into network, and I'm doing the thing. And so why it's important is because they came to a point where whatever soul contract I signed to come back and do what I'm doing, I was so far off of it that the universe and God had to intervene. And so what happened, Ryan, is that at this point I had only been using cannabis. I'd used harder drugs and a lot of synthetic stuff and alcohol, whole destruction, all that stuff in my past. But I never used plant medicine. I'd always joked, I'm scared I'll never come back, right? And so in 2019, right? In 2019, I had this revelation, oh my God, I'm so unhappy. And it was like immediately the next day, dude, I lived downtown, and so I was always walking everywhere. I started to get this irrational fear that somebody's going to run up and kill me. Like stab me to death or shoot me, like out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden what happened is maybe a couple of days later, once this started, I got this really gnarly pain inside of my body. And all of a sudden I thought I was dying of something. Now, what I realized at this point, because everything started to manifest itself so quickly, in 2019, in January, I realized when all this started, I was like, oh my God, I can literally have anything that I want. But what I didn't know is that what I didn't realize, and have the awareness, is that I had so much unhealed pain and trauma from my past that subconsciously I manifested a reality where it was like, oh, first I'm scared of dying, but then it was like, oh, nope, you have a disease, which really was my body and energy saying, or my subconscious actually saying, hey, congratulations, you realize you can have whatever you want. No, you can't, because now you're going to die, which was really my subconscious programming with my stepdad and my real dad, which is no matter how much success I have, prom king, team captain, stand out, straight A's, stand out in the community, no matter how much success I have, I'll never have the love I crave. And so I recreated that again. And so now here I am, and here I am in 2019. I just had this whole entire revelation. I thought it was going to be my business's first 7-figure year, and the pressure I cracked, and I started to get this pain, and I thought for sure I was dying, dude. And of course I didn't go to the doctor, didn't tell anybody, because I didn't want to admit it. Because then it makes it real. Mm-hmm. So I randomly got invited to a mastermind in Thailand a month later. And I know this sounds crazy to listeners, but I was like, dude, I had this certainty. Like, it was a certainty, dude. That was like, when I get on that plane to go to Thailand, I feel like I'm going to die over there. Like, I feel like they're gonna be like, yeah, he had this random cancer and he just didn't come back. And I don't know why I had that, dude. I mean, I wasn't trying to think that. And that's not anything like me. I've been a very healthy person my whole life. And so I go over to Thailand with a buddy of mine for 10 days to a business mastermind. It was a 7-day business mastermind. And we were there for a total of 10 days. It was during the full moon, which happened to be a Libra full moon. Happened, right? Surprise,
yes.
surprise. March 2019. Coincidence. So here I'm at this business mastermind. I do my thing as a speaker, all this crazy stuff. I finally opened up and I told somebody, I said, hey, I feel like I'm dying of something that I'm really scared to admit. And it was the first time that this energy healer, and I know that was a guardian angel now, but she explains to me about numerology, and then she explains to me about life paths. And all of a sudden, there was this remembering, dude, like this, oh my God, like something that seemed familiar. I was like, there's something about what she's saying that seems so familiar. And it was a moment in my life where I decided, oh, I see what's going on. And I don't know how I knew this, but it's like my ego. And I didn't even know what ego really meant at the time. I could just feel it as like my ego has to dissolve. And so the business mastermind finishes up, and my buddy who booked all the stuff, he did everything. I just showed up at the airport. He's like, oh yeah, we're actually here for an extra 3 days. And I'm like, really? I go, dude, that's cool. I go, what are we going to do? And he's been using plant medicine at this time. He had visited shaman because he was born in Mexico, lives in Mexico. I was in San Diego. And he had been going to see shamans in Mexico at this point. Now, I remember when he was telling me about shamans, and I was like, oh, okay, bro, let's go hug some trees.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what it meant.
Yeah.
And he's explaining to me he's calling it plant medicine, but my programming of everything I've experienced is telling me, oh, dude, psychedelics, like, cool, man. And so he tells me the mastermind's over. We had these 3 days. He's like, we're going to Koh Phi Phi, which is a little island off of the coast of Thailand. And we end up at this resort, this really amazing resort, very, very secluded. And it turns out he's like, bro, we're going to be taking psilocybin. Now, what I actually took was 4-ACO-DMT, which I'm sure for the users, though, it's a synthetic version of psilocybin, and psilocybin being the psychoactive ingredient inside of magic mushrooms, or one of the varieties of mushrooms. So for me, I was like, bro, I was so scared because that was my whole life. That's why I had manifested everything, because I was living in fear, lack, not being enough. I didn't know any of this at the time. And so that was my first, I went to the island. We ended up going on taking the plant medicine journey. And literally it was March 20th, 2019, full moon ceremony. It all happened randomly. And those 5 hours, first off, wrecked the last 2 years of my life, but literally transformed everything about the way of being. And I have never in my entire life been more happy, more at peace, more fulfilled, more on purpose, and more passionate, intimate, just about being alive in literally every moment, which I know to a lot of people sounds cliche, than I am right now sitting here with this podcast with you. And it all started with something that I didn't even trust. And it was in that moment that with that plant medicine journey that my whole life changed. And I mean, if I'd sat here and thought about it for a second, bro, I would probably start bawling, because it's just so overwhelmingly moving to me, the absolute epitome of what it is to release, to surrender, to let go. Now, it took 2 years for me to be able to sit here and say that, because the last 2 years, bro, were like, I don't know what everybody thinks spiritual awakening is, but dude, like, it was dark. It hurt the whole way. It hurt, dude. But I never would have gotten through it with plant medicine. I had a couple more ceremonies with different medicines since then, but that's how the whole thing started.
Hey, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the show. I wanted to take a quick moment to let you all know that the doors are officially open for the Conscious Cannabis Collective. And as such, this is the last week you can sign up and receive all of the bonuses we're currently including. This is the last time I will be personally onboarding those of you who sign up with a complimentary one-on-one session, and you'll have the ability to get the Grow with Cannabis course for free during this limited time. For more info on how you can take advantage of this offer, head down to the show notes for this episode and secure your spot today, as we only have so many spots left and they are filling up quickly. Now back to the show. That's beautiful, man. And, a download that I just got, and I love going deep on this show.
Let's go.
We were talking about it beforehand, but I see you were saying that that experience was what, really catalysted, right? But then the next 2 years of you going through your stuff and really what I heard is integrating, right? Like the integration period.
That's what's been exactly what it was.
Yeah. That's what's allowed you to actually be here. And the analogy I got to lead over the relationship thing that we were talking about with cannabis, right, is that like, you know, in a way, the actual PEAK peak experience of like using psilocybin, connecting with a plant teacher is kind of like the orgasm part of sex, right? But if you take out all the other aspects that get you to that end point, right, they're all the integration part, right? So like romance, the connection, everything like that, that's the integration, which is challenging, right? The orgasm is usually pretty easy, right? Like, and I
100%.
in the sense that like plant medicine because they can be extremely challenging, but they're a very small amount of time, you know, like you're not there for months, you know, if everything goes properly. Yeah.
No, and I love that. And the thing I always tell people that, you know, come to either my retreats, because we integrate plant medicine at these retreats to different various degrees. And and it's like the thing I tell people is I'm like, look, it's like anything else. You don't know what you don't know. Like when I started a business, I invested in business masterminds because I wanted to collapse time and learn how to make it more successful faster, because you just don't know what you don't know. And what I learned about psychedelics was that one is I learned what ego was on that journey that I went to. It was like the creators said time out. And I don't know who has ever played Mario Brothers 3, but you know the map on Mario Brothers 3, how you go zip and you go zip around. What I describe it to people as is I was like, it was like first off the first hour, I thought I was going to die. I laid in a chair. It was just the most beautiful outdoor resort. I thought I was going to die. I was so heavy. I know now though, that was literally my soul feeling the weight of the ego that I have created in this avatar, so much so that I literally for an hour, couldn't even peel myself out. I was so dredged in fear and terror that I was dying. But anyways, when I finally got up, it was like the creator pushed time out, like the about game. And I was like zoomed out to the main menu. And I'll never forget you. I was standing in front of the resort looking. It was just a very little place, but a gorgeous outdoor place. You know, all these cabanas that are up high on stilts and like whatever. And I'll never forget, dude, I was gone and I was me at the exact same time. And there was no separation. I can't really explain it in this dimension because it doesn't make any sense. I was like the perception of God and I was the perception of me. I was my higher self and my ego self together at once, simultaneously, like, and it made sense. And it just walked me through what my journey is, and which was the long story short was none of this matters. None of this is real. The only thing that really matters is love. And you're here to be playful, Marshall. And that was like the download I originally got. Now, why that was important is because I didn't see a bunch of crazy visuals, but what it did for me is it dissolved the ego to the point where I realized, oh my God, none of this bullshit that we've made up, man constructed, really matters. And what really matters is love. And then what I integrated, Ryan, it's interesting you said, is that I didn't know what that meant. But all of a sudden, I came out of it feeling like I needed to be more connected to nature. Now, I remember at the time, I'm Mr. Bougie, living downtown San Diego, traveling, doing all the luxury stuff, proving how I'm not a farm kid anymore, right? Yeah. I didn't know I was doing that. And so all of a sudden, I go, oh my God, I feel like I'm supposed to move to the mountains, which I'm like, is the most dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, okay? Dumb. And so I'm like, that's what my ego says, right? Immediately. And so again, I feel like I'm sick, and I don't know, because I never went to the doctor. I don't know what was wrong with me, but it could have been ulcer. I don't know. Lots of things. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know what it was. It was God just giving me an opportunity to really know myself. And so anyways, I have this pain. I decided I'm going to heal it with plants. And so I dive in all or nothing. Like I just talked about on our show about being all or nothing when it comes to addiction. You don't even realize it because I wasn't even allowing there to be a gray area. But I did at the time, I couldn't. So all of a sudden I get this download from the universe that nothing matters besides love and that we're all connected. Everything is one. Now, I want to stay on top of what I'm saying about healing, but I do want to say one thing that's interesting that we can get into later is that at the end of my journey, I sat down and it's like, I'm telling you, Ryan, it's as certain as the sun. I can see the sun in the sky right now. I realized that I had done this before, meaning I had done these lives many times. And what I realized, what I remember at the time is that in my last life, I was on the brink of some kind of power, and somewhere my ego got messed up, and I was murdered, and this is where it happened. And I was like, I didn't like try to make that up, dude. Like that was the download. So anyways, we'll put that over there for now. Yes. So I come back from Thailand. I realized that I Marshal Gillen did die over there, and that there's healing capabilities of plants. And so I started getting into a all plant diet, which then the more I read led me back to what I had already created as taboo in my head, which was the plant medicine. It was like, I didn't even honor it. I was like, there's such a cognitive dissonance that even though I knew and felt what it did to me, I still wasn't giving it the real like weight that I know now. well, it had to happen this way, but that I could have. And so I spent the next couple of months just building a relationship with plants in general. Eventually got back into plant medicine can help. Sat with Mother Aya, and then after that, I hadn't gone back in literally until about, I don't know, dude, like 16 days ago. I just used like plant medicine again for the first time like 16 days ago, because I've had all the opportunity to use the medicine. I'm not ready to go back in.
Yeah.
Like I could feel I'm not ready. And then all of a sudden, like 12 days ago, I got this download that I was supposed to go on a 3-day vision quest. So I fasted and on day 3 and I used the medicine and I got the blueprint for what's up. But so yeah, dude, it's been a wild journey, dude. But it all started with that beautiful little connection to what is, because again, it's not, you don't know what you don't know. I'm going to be moving to Colombia next month because I want to stay with the shamans and I really want to study and be with the medicine. I want to learn that. And so that's just going to be a section of my time. But the point being is that not everybody has to go this hard. There are people who are going to be using medicines more often than not. But if you're listening to this and you're wondering if it's right for you, or you've heard how it can handle, because I suffered from PTSD. I was also like in the Las Vegas shooting, which was another crazy thing, right? Like all these crazy things throughout my life that plant medicine gave me an opportunity to heal. I don't want to mess this up, so please correct me because I'm sure you are way much more familiar. But as we know, each medicine has a different profile of how it works. So marijuana is like she works in the shadows. She will take away willingness. You know what I'm saying? But she makes everything okay, no matter what it is. And that's right. But ayahuasca works in the light, where she's not going to make you do anything, but she's going to bring every single thing to light. And it's just like the psilocybin though was really truly just the dissolution of ego, which again it was a lifting of the veil. It wasn't anything like Mother Aya. And so it's like, if you're listening to this, I'm not saying that you should or you shouldn't. You should go to a state where it's legal and you should be of age to do it, give your chance to self to develop. But point being is that if you've ever suffered from any of these mental illnesses or mental health issues that people like me, I have, and Ryan, I'm sure that you probably have gone through your struggles too. Plant medicine is really a brand new thing that I wish that more people knew about. And so the fact that you're doing this podcast and that you've allowed me to come on here and share this story is amazing. But just in general, the space that you're creating for everybody, because it has been such a taboo subject for so long. It has been such a limiting space for so long, but it has this infinite, I'm convinced, I'm like, dude, if we just gave, which I'm not political at all. But I'm like, if we just gave all the politicians in the world these like a dose of psilocybin, like 3 grams, like it would be good, man. Everybody would be chilled out, bro. It would be, I would be like, it would be awesome. And so for me, psychedelics just created that space. I got to go there. I looked around. I'm like, oh, now I know. And I hadn't felt the need to go back in, and so to people that are listening, it's like, that's it. It just made the space where I was able to have a little bit more awareness and go, oh, all that exists. And then I've been spending my time trying to get back there through breath work and cold therapy and meditation and visualization, which, I haven't found quite the experience yet, but I know I'll get there with practice. And so it is what it is, man.
You brought up so many good things there, and you perfectly described what I believe a responsible, conscious plant medicine use is. And what that is really being able to know when you're desiring that plant medicine versus when it's a calling, right? Because desire resonates much lower on David Hawkins' scale, right? And that scale I use for a lot of different stuff, whereas a calling, a calling is up around 450, 500, right? And when you're called to something, it's really it's something deeper than your ego, right? Because the ego, the way I think about the ego is it's really just like a little tiny pinky nail in terms of like what you fully are, right? And your higher self, your soul, whatever you want to call it, right? And so it's fun, right? I want to take care of my pinky nail, of course, right? But am I going to take care of my pinky nail despite my heart? No, of course not, right? 100%. And so, and so that's why like being able to answer these calls and have the process to understand in yourself, like what, where the energy is coming from and what the intention is behind it. That is responsible use. I mean, that is becoming conscious, and you can use that for anything. Think about like food, right? Do I need this food right now at 10 p.m., right? Now, 100%. Sometimes you might decide, do I need it? No, but you know what? I'm willing to pay the consequences for enjoying myself. Okay, cool. Right. You're a sovereign being. You can do that, right? We are the creator. And so I loved what you just described there, because it was a perfect, really step-by-step process on how you interact with plant medicines and why you use them when you use them, Yeah.
Well, dude, I appreciate you recognizing that. And let's take it a step even deeper than that, because I failed, which is how I learned, because it's interesting, the way, and I love that. I love the pinky nail, that's such a great analogy. One of the ways I always think of ego is I'm like, look, whether there's a space or no space, universe or no universe, globe or flat earth, like it doesn't matter if it's simulation, it doesn't matter whatever it is. I'm like, the suit that we need to play in this game, in this dimension, is this body. It's this avatar. And our ego, I always say our ego is just our avatar. It's it's what keeps us alive in the game, And so when we can understand that that's its only job, and that everything it does to limit you is only from a place of scarcity and lack, and we can overcome that through subconscious reprogramming, which is a gajillion different ways to do, that's when we start to be able to take control of our life and be able to manifest it. And so I didn't know this though, because after I had that ceremony, I then got onto plant medicine, and I was like, oh, Mother Aya, and I desired a change. So check this out, dude. I went and found a ceremony. I was already vegan for a long time at that point, so I was good and cleansed. It was during Ramadan, so I dry fasted for whatever days, and I was ready, dude. I was talking about it, and I was watching all the videos, and I was building it up, and I just knew, dude, I was like, this is what I've been waiting for. This is the moment. I know I'm going to go get what I'm looking for, and I was building content around it, and I went and sat with Mother Aya, me, my buddy, who took me to the original ceremony in Thailand. And then there was probably 12 other people that night, and everybody went in, and I took two doses, and nothing happened. And I remember after that morning, I woke up, my buddy's telling me he had this life-changing event. And I was so angry, dude. I was so angry because I felt cheated. He was telling me about his experience, and we sat, and integrated everything, and people are telling me about their experiences. And I felt so mad. And again, I didn't know at the time, but my subconscious programming, the loop is running, which is, it doesn't matter what you do, Marshall, you're always going to be a worthless loser. But I couldn't feel it again. So my ego drove me to the plant medicine. And we know, Ryan, that, and most of our listeners will know, that the plant will take you where you need to go. Always. It's not going to give you any more than you need. And what Mother Aya told me, what I integrated over the last, 2 years, year and a half now since then, is there's nothing externally that can fulfill me. And that's what she brought to light. I didn't go in because she was telling me, yo, Marshall, there is nothing left for you out here in this realm. That there's nothing else, dude. You've done everything. There's no plant medicine. There's nothing. And so about 2 months after that, dude, I burnt down my business, top paid speaker. I broke up with my girlfriend of 5 years. I got rid of everything I owned. I got rid of the condo, and I moved to the middle of nowhere, literally. And so I literally been sitting in silence. And again, not everybody can do that, but that's why people like you and I have invested the time, the energy, the actual experience, so we can shorten and help people through that journey. But it's I've been doing the work for 2 years, this dark, painful shadow work. And eventually, like I said, I wasn't trying to, dude. I've been feeling pretty happily. I was just out in the backcountry, Montana, probably 100 miles out. There's nothing out there, and this is a very sacred space as far as the Blackfoot tribe, Native American tribe, and a lot of the practices here. And so I'm standing out here, again, I said 2 weeks ago, and I'm standing next to this stream, and it's the sun shining, there's long grass flowing, the mountains are there. And all of a sudden I got this feeling just to sit down. I was I didn't want to leave here. I couldn't. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I'm supposed to do a vision quest here. So I fasted for 3 days, drove back out there, I was there for 3 days, fasted for 3 days. I'd never had an experience like that. It's just being alone. And I fast anyways, usually about 18 hours a day. I'll do a 72-hour fast every 2 or 3 months. But I had never done it with such intention. And I'd had the medicine, I'd had the mushrooms, the psilocybin mushrooms, for a while. And it just took me, I don't know why, dude. I had 7 grams of them, so I took them. But I didn't go in like I thought I would. Yeah. And instead, it met me right where I was at. And because I've cultivated such a peaceful and content and gentle approach to life, this newfound self-love and self-care that I've dedicated and committed my life to over the last 2 years of being here in Montana in the middle of nowhere. That's where the plant medicine met me. So it was a very interesting new feeling from where I was in 2019, which I was met with such fear, she was still graceful, but to where it was now, where I thought it going to come in like a storm. And it was like, yo, what's up, bro? So, hey, like, let's take a walk. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And it was short, 7 grams. And it was like, it only lasted like 90 minutes, man.
Wow.
And yes. And I came out with this absolute crystal clarity of exactly why I reincarnated here, why I chose this avatar and the whole experience. And so again, I'm for all intents and purposes a normal dude, normal Western society kind of guy. And it completely changed my life. And it gave me the permission to step into the energy medicine, the healer role that I came here to fulfill, but that I judged so hard because Western culture made me feel like that's too feminine. That's not cool. You can't make money doing that. You're going to waste your life on some hippy dippy bullshit, like all this stupid ass limitations, when really it's like I was telling you on my podcast, I fly high level, high earning entrepreneurs out to Montana. They come to this retreat for 4 days and all of a sudden they go home and they're like, they're in the middle of the city, make face talking to trees. And I don't mean that to over exaggerate, like literally, Ryan, like when you tap into that power, which everybody does it different, but it looks like you and I do it the same way, bro.
Yes.
We've mastered reprogram our subconscious mind through disciplining our body. The tangible result, which then transcends that, and it leads to overall health because it becomes a way of life. People look at my life now, how I'm living in the cabin in the mountains, and I work like literally like 90 minutes a day, dude. Close to 15K deal today, and it's not about money. And I'm not trying to but it's like I make money because I have structured containers, sacred containers that I've now honored. Instead of trying to do everything and build this massive business, I just got really clear on one thing. And I've created these little sacred containers in all areas of my life. And I look at life with so much more intention, which helps me be so much more present, which allows me to be so much more fulfilled in every moment of my life. And so for listeners who may be disconnected a little bit, I want to say, like, dude, it didn't start off like this. First off, it started with walking into my condo, telling my girlfriend of 5 years, hey, babe, we can't do this anymore. Like, we can't heal in this relationship. You know how painful that it didn't. It didn't look like me big pimping in Montana in my ice bath, soaking up the rays. Like, oh, okay, great, Marshall out there living the life. No, It didn't look like that. It looked like living in my grandparents, who are now passed away, their abandoned, dilapidated house in Illinois in the middle of nowhere because I had nowhere else to go for 2.5 months when I first left. Questioning my ego, questioning the Marshal Gillen, the international award-winning speaker, now broke, busted, living in poverty in his, but like that's what it looked like. It wasn't all this crazy things that you look at Ryan and I now. Like when I look at Ryan's page, Instagram page, it brings me such joy and pleasure because I'm on that frequency with him. But if I would have seen this frequency even 6 months ago, I would like, fuck you guys. And I wouldn't have really been, I wouldn't have really been like that. But there was part of my ego on here that still would have felt like, God, why can't I live like that?
Yes.
And it was because I never stopped and did the work. But again, I couldn't have known. I couldn't have had the space for it if it wasn't for the medicine, which I'm just so incredibly grateful. And so now it's weird for me to say, but it's like, and I shouldn't say weird. That's so disrespectful. It's a lazy vocabulary. It makes me very uncomfortable to say it in my ego. But now it's like I want to dedicate my life. I am dedicating my life to shamanism. It's out of everything I've studied over the last years. I mean, Buddhism and Taoism and Native Americans and Japanese, Chinese and African and like all of this, which is all for me was circled around being some type of a warrior. But these different ideas and beliefs, and I've always connected with all of them. But there's just something about the sacred way of a shaman. And so all this has led me to my purpose, which is like, dude, I'm just here to make medicine. And I know that sounds really I've been running that line because like I get hit on Facebook and Instagram all the time. It's like running a business. Hey, what do you do? Hey, Ryan, what do you do? And I'm well, I'm being pretty happy today. Yeah. And they're like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I make medicine. And, and I know because I used to coach it. Like they don't know that I've invested more than them, that I've made more money than them. And that's not a flex, it's nothing. But most of the people in scarcity mindset, they're working like that. And so they come right in. What do you do? And I'm like, I make medicine. And to most people, it sounds like, okay, you hippie, like you make medicine. Like, yeah, man. But I have, because of plant medicine and because of the shadow work, it's allowed me the space to be able to stand up boldly and claim what it is that I want to do, which is I want to heal people, man. I want to work with energy medicine. And I don't think that's weird. And I don't want anybody to have to believe anything they don't want to believe, but I want to believe in what I want to be. And instead of living in fear after 36 years, I went on that medicine journey, and finally the source through that tool, which was that psilocybin mushroom this past, whatever, 2 weeks ago, source goes, okay, yeah, your passage is granted. You've completed this level, next level. And so tell me why now all of a sudden we're closing more business deals than ever. I just got, somebody just reached out to me to come speak at another, like these speaking opportunities are coming up, being on this podcast. I was like, yo, you want to be on mine? And you're like, yeah, you. And so again, to everybody that's listening, you know, I nerd out over law of attraction. Like all the laws, all the universal laws of vibration, law of oneness, you know, cause and effect, everything. But I nerd out of law of attraction because it's so simple. And you and I know about quantum mechanics. It's not even that hard to understand. It's a couple simple studies that prove basically that thoughts become things. But really, thoughts create emotions, and feelings create a vibration. And the vibration tunes into an infinite frequency. Like, we understand that. And so for people that might be listening to this show and they're wondering why plant medicine might be right for them, because if you want to be able to truly live your life like it's a dream and create your reality on purpose and with intention, you'll never be able to do that from a space of woundedness, whether it's your wounded masculine or your wounded feminist. And a lot of people, you don't know what you don't know. And like in coaching space, Ryan, I don't know if you've heard this or not, but we talk about people being in a jar. Oftentimes it's like they're in a jar with a lid on, and there's a label on the outside of the jar, but you can't see the label when you're on the inside of the jar. You need somebody to come take the lid off so you can start. You go, oh, that's the label. And that's what plant medicine has done for me. And so for those of you who may be listening to this, it's like, yo, I cannot tell you enough, man. Like, go do your healing, whatever that means to you. Because once you are able to heal the subconscious programming, that's where we manifest from. That's the part of our avatar that connects with source energy that allows us to manifest things we want. But you can't tap into the meaning of it and the purpose of it and the fulfillment of it if you don't heal. And but you might want to explore some plant medicine to get you there.
Yes. You know, I agree with everything you just said, and I had so many downloads pop up. I was writing them down.
Yeah.
You probably saw me scribbling.
Yeah, please, dude. I'm sorry. I get going.
Dude, please. I mean, you are in very good company. Everyone who's listening to the show who knows me personally is laughing right now, probably thinking, oh, Marshall cares if Marshall thinks Ryan cares if he talks too much. Like, trust me, I talk so much, and I really appreciate people who can talk, because it's really like, I'm so excited about life, and I can see that in you. And that to me is the most charging thing, right? When you talk about a battery charger, something that charges me more than anything is someone who has a passion for living, right?
Yes.
And so your conversation, man, is incredible. And so I really wanted to commend you on that, first of all. You know,
I appreciate it.
I love having guests on that can talk a lot and can really like talk about what they love, you know, and what they're passionate about.
Dude, what we seek is seeking us, right, Rumi?
Yes.
Like, so
yes.
It's I think that was the biggest thing, dude. And not to switch subjects, but as far as the spiritual awakening goes, the biggest lesson for me was really truly finally believing that our external reality is literally, this is not, for anybody that thinks that I may be mistakenly using the word literal, I'm saying literally is a direct reflection of your thoughts and feelings. And when you realize that, when you accept that, rather, you know, because it's like, well, how can there be other people? And it's like, dude, we're all playing on the same grid. But yes, we're all each other having a different experience. But anyways, when I realized that was the game changer, because then everything that used to trigger me, even though it did trigger me, I was able to stop and go, okay, where else in my life am I being triggered like this? And when's the first time I actually remember being triggered like that? And what was the story I tell myself for that trigger? And then I change the story. And that's how we obviously reprogram it. But when I can't stress enough for the listeners, like when you get to a point and nobody wants to, most people don't want to do it because it assumes that they're wrong or they messed up. But when you get to a point when you can really take full ownership over everything that happens and understand that you're not in charge of any of it, like you're not in charge of any of it. You're literally just experiencing. And we could talk about manifestation and destiny and fate and all that, but there's really that's the paradox, right, Ryan? Like you're fully in control, but once you get full control, what you're actually fully control of is realizing that you have absolutely no fucking control at all.
Yes.
And it's this weird balance of riding that flow between chaos and certainty. And I can't stress enough, if you can get to a point where you accept that your reality is a mirror, it's a hack to the game, because it's the cheat code is right in front of you every single day. Oh shit, I'm getting mad. Well, where else do I get mad? Well, I know according to the Hawkins scale that when I'm mad, it's a low vibration. And Marshall and Ryan were talking that vibration is what communicates with infinite frequency or infinite possibilities in the universe. So if I want to tune into a better frequency, then I need to get a better vibration. And so once you know that and you can hack the system, it's just like, it's a game. And then how can you not? Well, the big part I'm leaving out for me is that I had to conquer my fear of death, and that's a whole nother conversation. But once I got over death, and I was able to realize there's never any time but right now, and I am fully in control when I let go, then it's really like a game. Like the whole thing is a game, dude. And I know that you know what I'm talking about, but it's
100%.
like, well, how can you not find joy in that? Even when I'm like, even if I'm all sad, like I was just crying the other day about, I don't know why. A song came on that just put me in an old state. And instead of what I used to do, which is just, why would I cry right now at 3:00 in the afternoon on a sunny day and holding it in and just dismissing it? I just let it flow out. And so I'm bawling, right? I mean, it's like a deep one too, a gross one, but like an ugly one, And I'm in my Jeep and I'm like, I'm bawling, right? And the reason I say this is because understanding that just because I'm in love with life doesn't mean I'm always going to feel happy.
Yes.
Okay. Being alive means getting to experience a full spectrum of emotions, not just a select few. That'd be like going outside and saying, oh, I only want to see green and red. All the other color spectrum be gone.
Yeah.
Like that's silly. You don't want to do that. And so when I realized everything is a mirror of my internal thoughts and feelings, and then I realized that when I showed up in this state of being able to create from a place of, of not being hurt, I was able to vibe higher, dude. It just changed everything, And so, yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that because Joseph Campbell says bliss is any emotion felt all the way through, right? One of the biggest aha moments I had in the last year was realizing that sadness, grief, any of these emotions that are quote unquote distasteful are actually bliss, right? Like, and that's what I was talking about when we were on your podcast about my journey with cannabis. When I was in Vegas and I had that emotion where I really felt sadness, it was bliss because all of a sudden I started realizing, oh my God, I'm feeling, and that's flowing, right? Just the same way.
That's flow.
Exactly. Yes. As long as the water's flowing and moving, you're going to be okay, but when it stops,
exactly right.
up, the water gets anaerobic, or rather like the conditions get anaerobic, bacteria, mosquitoes, all that stuff start breeding,
Yeah, it gets stagnant and gross. Well, dude, it's like, and that's the thing is like, one practice that I really changed my life, and I don't even have to think about it now because I just do it. But when I was in Thailand, right after that ceremony, I started doing this exercise of playing the conscious observer. So for the listeners, and you probably are familiar with this, but for the listeners, what I started doing is first off, when I closed my eyes, I would try to picture me. So like, let's say that I'm sitting here right now in his Jeep with Ryan. I close my eyes, and what I'm doing is I'm literally picturing what Ryan sees. Like I'm picturing how I look. I'm looking at Marshall right now. And I started to perfect that. And then over time, I'd be like sitting in a cafe and I'd look out across the street and I'd see a truck, and I'd close my eyes and I'd be like, what does that guy see from his point of view? And I started to master the skill. I mean, anywhere. I'd be sitting here looking at Ryan, be like, oh, okay, what's Ryan? Oh, okay, I see his setup. I see his room. He's sitting in his little thing. He's looking at his, like, okay. And I know this is far removed for a lot of people, but the reason this is so important is because once I mastered that skill, I was really able to master one foot in the spiritual realm with one foot in the physical realm. Meaning that when I'm in my car and I'm bawling, my ego suit, Marshall, the avatar that I have to be to play the game, he's bawling. But my higher self is up there at the top looking down at Marshall going, damn, bro, you're really living. Keep it up.
Feel it all. Okay? Yes.
Exactly. And understanding that does allow me now to flow. If I'm moved by something, I don't deny it anymore, whether it's even anger. Because again, now anger is not always going to be a resourceful emotion. And rarely do we want to be operating from a place of anger. But at how I vibrate now, if there gets to a point when anger comes up, one is I don't deny it. It doesn't mean I act on it and punch something. It's like, I feel it. I don't try to go, nope. I'm like, man, I'm angry.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, do I want to be angry? And I'm like, no, I don't. And I'm like, I'm like, okay, Marshall. And then I reset. But the point of it is that when you're able to live in both of those things, when you practice understanding that your reality is a mirror and you're able to live from a point where you're that conscious observer, your higher self and your ego self, it becomes a game. Like I talk to myself all the time, but not like in a weird way. Like people, I think, underestimate when they're trying to heal trauma, the power of talking to yourself, because we're great at giving advice and lifting other people up, but rarely to ourselves. So like, I just went through a bad experience where the girl I was dating broke up. She was cheating on me basically. Right. And so, just the other day, I was driving somewhere. I saw a truck that reminded me of hers. And the first thought I was like, oh, fuck her. And then I was like talking to myself out loud. I'm like, no, I said, bro, no. And I'm literally talking out loud. I'm like, nope, bro, is that the energy that we want to create? I'm like, no. And I'm like, okay, then well, why don't you reframe that? And I'm like, you know what? I'm sorry that I allowed myself to be hurt, Marshall, like, or whatever. And I'm sending you blessings. And it sounds weird to people, but there's a quantum entanglement that what you think and feel about somebody else, they're going to think and feel back to you, which just is a reverberation, which is going to cause you more pain and strife in your reality.
Yes.
And so, I don't even know where I was going, but the conscious observer and understand everything's a mirror is game changer. It's the ultimate hack.
And that's why you just perfectly summed up why forgiveness is a gift to yourself, right? Because you're freeing yourself from the strains and the chains that are going to be roped in, right? And one of the things that I feel really challenges a lot of people, right, is as we've moved farther and farther into the left brain as a species, right, over the last couple thousand years from right brain dominance into left brain dominance, we've begun only believing in what we see. But the challenge is that we only see 4% of visible reality, right? So that whole I'll believe it when I see it saying, it's like, sure, if you only want to see 4% of what's actually going on. And a lot of things are more qualitative in nature, right? So like, for instance, I imagine you've loved someone in your life, but you couldn't show me in a mathematical formula how much you love them, right? But everyone realizes that inability to measure it does not mean it does not exist, right? And so that's a lot of like what we're talking about here is getting more in touch with like, hey, what if I were to tell you that love's not the only thing you can't measure that actually exists, right? It's like that opens up a whole wormhole, and it's challenging. And that's what I feel plant medicines can help so much with, because we're left-brained and because we've been led to believe that life is only what you can see and what you can measure on a scale. What happens is that when someone interacts with plant medicines, they go, oh, I'm seeing hallucinations, right? But really what's actually happening is their consciousness, which is a psychic substance, is being filtered down, and they're seeing what's actually all around them all the time, but maybe is 100%. Not useful for survival, right? And so
100%.
All of that has a purpose, right? Like filtering out reality has a purpose, but also what you were saying too about the big mushroom trip you just had, right? How it didn't last that long. What that shows me and what I've experienced as I've continued to do psychedelics, and more importantly, do the absolute like best at integrating in between, is that very similar to how Ram Dass talks about with the prophets he went to go see in India, or the gurus, whatever he called them, they would take plant medicines like LSD or whatever, and their reality wouldn't change because they're already living there, right? So what you're really seeing, like I just got this download that really the more plant medicines work, it's actually like the more you have to go, but the less they work, it's actually like, oh, you're doing good. Like they didn't really change the reality that much, So I just got that download. That was cool.
I love that. And you're right. And it's like Alan Watts says, like, if you don't know what you want, it's because either one, you already have it, or two, it's impossible to know. It's like, how can a fire burn itself or water make itself wet? Like, how can knowingness know itself? And so a lot of people struggle with that. And you're right. And for plant medicine, again, with the dissolving the ego, like now all these things are right in front of our face, like actual science, right? Now it became believable, because more than an awakening, it was a remembering. The plant medicine allowed me to remember something that I seemed so familiar that I just was drawn to. And the more I started to learn, I was like, holy shit, how come everybody doesn't know about this? You know what I mean? And so, I think that's what the coolest thing about it is, it allowed me to start to believe. Like you're talking about 4%, and we kind of skimmed over that. But for people who don't know, what you're talking about is this electromagnetic like graph or grid. I'm missing the wrong term, because I want them to be able. Spectrum, that's the word I'm looking for. EM spectrum. If you guys Google EM spectrum and go to images, a bunch of graphs will come up. And we all know that the universe is just energy, and energy is just a frequency. It's just a frequency. And so what this graph will show you, because science has proven it, is that everything that we experience in this reality is a frequency. And this graph will show you the densest frequency to the least dense frequency. And what the graph will show you is that in the very, very middle, 4% of the little tiny graph, that makes up visual sight, a frequency. So that means that 96% of every single thing of all the energy that's taking place in your experience, you're completely impervious. You have no idea. You have zero idea that's even happening. Yeah. And so again, if you would have told me that before the plant medicine, I've been like, whatever, bro, you can't prove that. But you take the plant medicine, you're like, oh, I know that. Like, I just get it, And so I think it's super important for people to understand, that's again, to have the best experience. This is the reference I make in a lot of my classes is music. Like if you go to a town square and there's a big festival going on, and in the middle of it, there's somebody that's just playing a violin. And I mean, it's like the most beautiful music you've ever heard. Like it draws you over there. Like there's a tool that's creating an energy of vibrations, that's creating a frequency that literally impacts me physically, that draws me over there. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. And the sun is shining just right. And my sweetie pie is right next to me. And my belly's just the right amount full. And the mood is right. And I just literally feel like it's a dream. Okay. Now, that is really what reality can be like. However, if that violin is not tuned right, or the string sucks, or the person that's playing it doesn't know how to play the instrument, all of a sudden now you're like, oh, like, babe, let's get out of here. Like, that's just hurt my ears. Like, I don't have a problem with that person. I don't judge a musician, but that's just hurt my ears. Like, let's just keep going.
Yeah.
That is how your body is. If you can master your body and your breath, you are mastering your instrument. And to be able to, I think the real focus for me, the intention in life is being able to master the moment, accepting that the future is not real and the present or the past doesn't exist. The purpose of life is not in the future. And so for me to be able to master my instrument, which is my body and my breath, mind, body, soul, which is my breath, right? Our prana, our life force. For me to be able to master the avatar, the tool, has allowed me now to be standing in the square, playing the most beautiful music I can as consistently as possible. And because I'm able to do that, all the things I visualize and all the other practices, they go into effect. And all these things that I want are drawn into me. Like if you hate violin, I'm not trying to draw you in. If you love violin, dude, like you are not going to be able to like say my serenade, it's going to get you. And that's exactly how life is. You are the creator and the creation. You're the violinist and the violin. And so when you can realize that everything that Ryan and I talk about, whether you use plant medicine or you go see a psychiatrist or you do cold Wim Hof or whatever, it's all just medicine that you can choose from, that a feeling in your gut that you know is right for you. And you choose this medicine so you can help heal this past trauma. Because once you heal the trauma, you can consistently vibrate at a frequency that draws those people into you. And then they're throwing tips in your jar and they're taking pictures and they're posting you. Now record labels are reaching out and like, but people don't believe that can happen because not enough people are talking about it. And the people that do talk about it are usually too far on the other side of like, everything is great. Just be happy. And it's like, yeah, but life sucks sometimes. And it's not that life sucks. It sucks to the ego. But what I found is that you got to fall in love with the contrast of life. And if you can find joy in the contrast, game over. Because it's just like, that's it. And then obviously make friends with death, which again is a whole nother topic, but yeah.
Yeah, I love that, man. And I love that analogy you brought up of the music because, you know, I always have this real big thing too that I talk about, which is the best way to have someone understand something is to have them understand it with a direct experience, right? And I feel as though this is one of the main reasons that religion has gone amok, right? Because it went from people actually doing the experience, right? Whether that be taking psilocybin mushrooms or, you know, meeting a guru, whatever, and it started writing it down. And then people forgot about the part of actually having the experience for themselves, right? And it's the same thing as if you tried to explain to someone to write down what a violin sounds like. How much would they actually know what a violin sounds like? They might be able to tell you. Yeah, like they might be able to tell you like, oh, it's going to sound something like that, but they have no idea because they don't have what context to put it in, you know? And that's one of the things I always say is that life is not an observation sport. You know, you have to go experience it for yourself because really like that's where trauma and all these things come from, right? Like they happen at a young age most of the time, right? At a time we don't know what safety is or how to create in our body. Our ego hasn't developed yet. And so from there, then we start taking ourselves away from experiences for fear of something in the future happening that may or may not actually happen, right? And then this fear of direct experience can spill over into a lot of different areas of your life. And that's why I think in that scenario, people can be set up really poorly to do psychedelic medicines because it is all about surrendering, right? Like, and so that's been a thing. Yeah.
That's what it helped me do was surrender. And I love that you bring that up. And, you know, for the listeners too, it's like that's so important for us to realize is that unhealed trauma from childhood, what it caught, like when you're a kid, there's no context of time. You're not thinking about this weekend, tomorrow night, even tonight. It makes no difference to you. Like you're just at the babysitter's, like you're just with mom, you're just whatever. And you're like, that's it. There's nothing else. And so what happens when trauma happens is it causes us to move from our body to our mind. And that's when we move out of our bodies because we're trying to escape trauma. And so for our listeners, because I'm sure this is all stuff you probably know, brother, but it's like, our subconscious mind makes up like 90% of our brain, of our experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so what our listeners should understand is that, all these things that we want and we desire, they come from the frontal cortex, or our conscious mind, which is like 10%. That's where want and desire comes from. But it's actually manifested with the subconscious mind. And so what I always tell people to understand is like our conscious mind processes about 40 bits of information per second. But our subconscious mind processes 40 million bits of information per second, a million times more. Mm-hmm. And so when we're have childhood trauma, what happens is we move from our body, which feels safe, into our head, which means that we're constantly on alert, because now we've been taught it was time stamped in the moment and then stored in our cells and at a cellular level in our DNA, that if this should arise again, we are in danger for our life. So act accordingly, whether it's fight or flight. And that's what's so great about ego, is because ego's job is to assign guilt. If ego assigns you as guilty, I'm going to stay and fight. If ego assigns myself as guilty, I'm going to run. And so when people start to understand this, is that why this is important is because if you never heal that trauma, every time you have any kind of stress, relationship, business, job, society, whatever, you're going to automatically move from your conscious brain of want and desire of all the things I should do and how I'm going to be like this from now on. And because it's evolution, you revert back to your subconscious mind because it can process so much information so much more quickly to keep you alive. So you literally cannot act from the front of your brain in a high stress situation. And so why this is so important is until you go back and heal that trauma. And again, there's multitudes of different ways to do it. You're always going to be in a reactive state where you're reacting to trauma that you never healed. It's just how it is. And so, Ryan, I'm sure you would agree. One of the ways that I've been able to do that is through biohacking. It's why being in nature, because getting in cold water, for example, what we're doing, and I know you know this, but what we're doing with getting cold water is there's so many things we're doing. But one of the greatest things that we're doing, right, is that we're creating a biological stressor through an environmental stress, but we're creating a biological stressor on our body that's so primal that goes through our conscious mind into the very fucking middle. It's like, unless you're dying, it's impossible to get to this spot. And so what happens is we activate this. It's like flexing the muscle. And the more that I get in the cold water every day when I don't want to do it, what I'm telling my body is I breathe through it. As I push through it, my body's telling me, get out, you're going to die. And I'm going, no, you're fine, like relax. So now the more that I do that, it's habitual. My subconscious is reprogramming itself through meditation, through fasting, through being with nature, grounding, right? All these things. And so now when I find out that my girlfriend, who I thought I was going to marry, is really cheating on me, I process it for like 30 minutes. And I know to a lot of people, they're like, oh, well, you must not have really loved her. It was definitely a 3 or 4 week process, but I'm saying like I was able to let it go in the moment. Like that's it. And then start my healing process right then. Mm-hmm. Right. Instead of rooting down the emotion. And I'll never forget, Ryan, I'd say it was like maybe 45 days ago. I was standing on my back deck and I all of a sudden wasn't upset or mad. And I was like, oh my God, the cold baths are working. And it was like everything. But for our listeners, like that's why it's so important to heal this trauma, to figure out what is it, where did it start? What is the story I want? And how can we create that energy and reprogram our subconscious mind so we're not always constantly reacting to lack or scarcity or unworthiness, because it just becomes that in your experience. And then it's like, and I don't mean to talk lightly of this because I attempted my life and I've lost my best friend, many friends to, attempted suicide. Mm-hmm. But it's like, it's like, what are you left with? To kill yourself. And what I believe is that you're just going to go right back into the loop anyways. You're going to start all over from the beginning anyways. Yep. That is life. Like that's all it is. Yeah. Like there's no escape until we go to whatever the next, I don't know. But I'm like, there's no escape. And so you're here to do the work. And that sounds defeating. I don't want anybody to hear this and be like, oh, well, fuck, that sucks. It's like, no, man, like the only thing standing in your way is you. Which should be liberating because that means that you can take care of it.
Yes.
Which is why you need to subscribe to the podcast.
Yes.
You need to hook up with Ryan.
Yes. And
you need to freaking learn about the medicine this cat's dishing out to the society because it will change your life.
Dude.
This one time, psychedelics.
This one time.
Subscribe. Leave a review.
Subscribe.
Yeah,
and,
leave a review.
It's funny, man, because you bring up something that I talk about so much, right? Which is that pain is a teacher. It's one of the best teachers, right? Because when you have a pain, a trauma, something that's ailing you, you're much less likely to let it go over like a teacher that maybe you're on Instagram and you scroll by someone making a super instructional video and you're like, scroll by, no dopamine kick, I'm done with that. But a pain comes in and you're like, hey, like you did in your body, like, what the hell's going on, right? And you immediately focus on it. Then what happens is a lot of us get focused almost too much there, right? And that can lead to a host of other issues. But, I think that's so amazing, that really what you've done throughout your journey is allowed yourself to feel these things so you can move through them. Because really what we are all doing by going through our experience and signing up and getting fully pitted on the wave, right, that is our life, is that we are creating the medicine that is us, right? We are a unique set of
100%.
fingerprints. Each one of us has a unique set of fingerprints that will never walk the planet again. And so I ask everyone that's listening to this right now, what can your set of fingerprints do differently than any other person that will live, ever has lived, or has ever like manifested themselves into this reality? What can you do
100%.
differently, right? Because the world needs that, especially look at the world right now. That's what the world needs more than ever. And so regardless of how you get there, whether it's hey, I never needed to use psychedelics, I got there through meditation, awesome, right? Like Terrence McKenna says,
100%.
when you answer the call, or when you get the message, hang up the phone, right? And that's a lot of what I talk about too, is that's why now I do psychedelics when I'm called to them, right? When they're calling me for a specific lesson or something that I need to download, okay, cool, I'll go interact with them, right? But I show them reverence, and like we were talking about in your podcast, I allow separation to make the heart grow fonder. Like if you play a little hard to get one another, the relationship is so much more hot and romantic. So
and I love what you said too, man. And it's so true, dude. And it makes me think, I think it's a little bit of a slippery slope, for the listeners or the viewers who might be thinking about this, because I want them to be careful, because what Western society has programmed us to believe, when you say, hey, like, go be unique, go do your thing, automatically, I don't know about you, and I could be generalizing, but for me, my brain used to all the time go to like all of a sudden pressure, because I was habitual. I was used to putting pressure on myself. So I hear that and I'm like, oh, great. Now I got to create something that's never been created. But that's not what Ryan is saying. That's not at all what Ryan is saying. That's not what we're suggesting. And I think the biggest thing is, like, one of the things that shamanism has really brought to my life is the non-importance, like how unimportant we are as a person. And so I don't mean it to be disrespectful to anybody, but like, you're going to die. We're all going to die. There's just absolutely nothing that you can't move anywhere. You can't hide from it. Like, it's been interesting to look at it from this perspective, but I've looked at death has become this great teacher and advisor to me, because anytime that I do feel stressed out or anxious, and I'm kind of twisted. So I named him Donnie Death. But in reality, like, all joking aside, when I'm in these stressed out moments, whatever it is, however serious it is, I'll look over and I'll be like, what's up, Donnie? Have you tapped me yet? Am I still alive? And he's like, you're still good, bro. And I say that funny, but it's like, one of the things that shamanism has taught me is how to be willing to die with every single decision you make. I mean, everything you decide in life, because death is stalking you in every moment. It's the greatest hunter. It could be the headlights coming over the hill. It could be walking down the death is stalking you, and most likely it's going to come sudden and unexpected. People are not planning to die. And so in Western society, we live this life like we're immortal, like we're never going to die. And so when I found a way to make a relationship with death and accept that, what I started to realize is that nothing really matters. I mean, nothing really truly matters. Because even if I become the most successful person ever, and I build a great legacy, and I do all the things, how long will people remember me for? When January 26th, 2020, when Kobe Bryant died, shook me to the core. I was like, damn, I grew up with that guy, like that, But a week later, I'm like, yeah, that sucks. Kobe died. And 100 years from now, nobody's going to remember his name. And it's not a slight against Kobe. It's just how human work, the nature goes on. And so as people, if we can, what Ryan is saying when he's like, you can create whatever you want, you owe it to the world. It's like, there's zero pressure, because you're going to die.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What happens is we have 8 chakras in our body, the top one being the one that's right up here at the top. And what happens is, once we die, all of our energy and everything that we've learned is stored in our DNAs, all of the wisdom, everything from your experience gets like a zip drive, gets downloaded through the chakras and into this top 8th chakra, and it gets sent back to source. So when we say the way to change the world is to change yourself, literally, even if you hung out in a cabin forever and you never were around people because that's what you were called to do, you would still be affecting everything, a legacy of everything, because that information is stored, because we're all one person, we're all one organism, us and the earth. And once we all remember that, we're all going to come back together as a social learning network, and earth will go to another octave, and we'll become a 5th density, whatever, and we'll just be one knowing being, like Ra or something. And who knows when that'll happen, but I just think it's important for the listeners to understand, like, listen, what we're saying is like, I don't give a fuck what you paint. Here's a blank canvas. There's no right or wrong at all. Just put something that makes you feel amazing on the canvas. I don't care. I'm telling you, can't do it wrong. And when you die, I live every day. I think Seneca said it. Live each day as a lifetime, as a full lifetime, or live each day as a full life. And that it's not, you're not going to live your dream day every single day, but approaching life with an attitude like this could literally be the last time I ever drive to the supermarket. Yeah. Man, if I knew that I was going to pass away, and again, not to trigger, it's like, there's other things that when people leave us, when we lose loved ones, it's like, I don't want to do anything. I would give one more day for me, my grandpa, right? I would give one more day. I mean, because my didn't have a dad. Like, I give one more day just to sit here at this park and look at this garden. You don't have to do anything. And so when we can start to approach life from an aspect of like, what if this is the last time you ever got to do this? What if this is the last time that Ryan ever got to talk to Marshall? Like, what if nobody plans on having the last conversation you ever have with somebody, And all too often in my experience in the past, I had people talk to me. They reach out to, because I made a big brand speaking across the world on suicide and prevention. But I've had people reach out to me in the last few years where I was one of the last people they talked to. They reached out for me for help, and I just didn't get to the message. And so it's like, when you realize how, and it's, again, and Ryan, you probably know, you travel a lot, Western society or Western culture, and what's, UK now and Australia, but that Western way of living, we're the only people like that. The rest of the world, the indigenous people to the cultures of the rest of the world are very in tune to themselves, or very in tune to nature. And again, I'm not hating on America. I love America. I'm proud to be American, but the corporation of America doesn't give a shit about Americans. And so this pride that we feel to do or be anything, it's like, if we can realize that making a bunch of money is not the objective. Making money is great. And it's awesome to impact people. But the reality of it comes down to, what is it that you could create? If you could create anything. Oh, I would be a dancer. I would be like, what did you want to be when you were just a little kid? And do that. And so again, I wasn't trying to, when you said it that way, I was like, I want to elaborate a little bit, because I want people to be real clear. It's like, there's no right or wrong. No right or wrong. And who's to decide anyways? Who's to decide what's right or wrong, good or bad? Like, who? God, or whatever he made right and wrong. It only exists. It's all him. So it's everything. And people hate that. It's like, dude, even like, again, Jeffrey Dahmer, that's from God. It's a reverberation of things that manifest over time, and free will and all these things. But the source it comes from is still the one Almighty. And so nothing is good or bad, right or wrong. Like, even killing a bunch of people, you're just going to vibrate at a lower level and start like it. I'm not saying you should go kill people, obviously. It's terrible. But like, what I'm saying? It's
yes, I know
there's no
exactly
right or wrong this whole thing. And so I want people to understand that.
It's funny because what I got a download there. Let me see if I can remember it. But it was basically that, we are everything, right? We are the good and the bad. We are everything, right? And there was a certain quote that I had. I forgot it now, but it might come back to me. These things, they float away for a little while.
I get
back.
you.
You know how those things go. But while I'm waiting for that, this has been such an incredible ride with you, man. And we got
thanks, man.
So many subjects.
Yeah,
right?
We've been all over the map.
Yeah. Oh, I remember one of the things that I was going to talk about. So basically, like, the way I think of it is this quote, right? Nothing you do matters, but it's very important you do it. That quote really sums up what you were talking about, right? Like, it's true. Like, another download I got, and I'll see how this comes out, because I get like I'm clairvoyant in a way, so I see images and try to transcribe them in analogies. Yeah. But what I got was that, imagine you have believed your whole life that you are the color red, right? And so you're running around in your life making streaks of red, but really you're the painter controlling the colors, right? Like, that's who you really are. And so that's why it's like, nothing you do matters, right? You're just red, right? But it's very important you do it, because you create a big picture, right? That has a lot of different beauty in it, right? So that was kind of the other download I got there regarding what you were saying, man. And
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like, for people that study, again, all kinds of types of spirituality and cultures and in different things, it's like the way of the warrior. There's like 21 ways, and 8 that at first, the best swordsman in Japan, I can't think of his name, Mitamoto. Can't remember his name. I should know better. If you guys Google 21 ways of a warrior. There's these ancient principles they live by, but one of the things that warrior, even shamans across all creeds, the common thread is that they get to a point where they understand that death is the ultimate hunter. You're going to die, and making friends with death is what allows you to be free, because now you understand that no matter what you do, it's not of that much importance. Nothing really matters, but that's why it matters, is because you have the ability. Like, none of it matters. So if you say none of it matters, it's going to feel even worse. But if you play the game with, like, that's how children are. If you were 5 years old and I came to your house and I woke you up and I was your dad and I was like, okay, bud, like, guess what? Today we're going to act like Miami Vice. Oh my God, I'm dating myself. We're going to act like we're going to act like we're in Jumanji.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're going to act like the van is a Jeep today, and we're going to act like everything outside is a jungle, and you're going to be The Rock, and I'm going to be Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk like that, and at 5-year-old you would have zero problems being present and pretending to do that all day long, and you would be in such joy, and you'd get in the van, it would be the Jeep, and your house would be the tree. Your house would be a tree house. Like, you would have zero problem doing that. And so the reason I say that is because that's what I talk about when I talk about being playful. Like, we are born as the ultimate creator. But what happens, Ryan, I talked about, was that trauma happens, which is the whole point of being here. We are born into a world of sin. Mm-hmm. It's like in trigonometry, sine wave, like it's a frequency. And so, like, we are born here to fail, which is where the story Adam and Eve comes from. So it's not a big deal. Like, you're human. You are perfectly imperfect. You have all the ability of a God, but you don't remember. And that's the whole point of the game. And so it's like that there's nothing else. None of this matters. It's all wiped clean, but you don't play Mario Brothers any less to win it. Like when you're playing Mario, like, you're trying to beat that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So why do people smash their PlayStations and smash controllers and TVs? But life is a lot the same way. And so, in this way of, like, the ancient warrior, the shamans, it's like when you look at life in a way that you can't escape your own death. And therefore, none of this is really that important. And in that regard, everything is humorous. And when you can get to a point when you can find joy and peace in life, and you can laugh and love, even when you are in despair, especially when you're angry, you can literally take control of your whole entire manifestation. And I've only recently found this out. So you might be listening to this 3 years from now, and you're like, oh, dude, this is Marshall's first podcast. You may know me, but just for you guys who don't know yet, like, wait and see. I at this point, I wish that, and I can't really wish because I want to wish my life away. I wish there was more time here in this time-space reality for me to have more tangible results, because I know that unfortunately, that's not unfortunately, because at least I know this key to the game. So I know that some tangible results it's going to take to start to get more masses of people. Mm-hmm. So, like, you can expect to see me driving a freaking Lamborghini Aventador down gravel roads in Montana, because it's just stuff,
Yes.
like that's what my message to the world is. I want people to understand is that we put so much meaning and importance to everything. We got to sign I can't get this. I got a face tattoo because I wanted to get some kitty. I was like, for a chick. Okay. I got a tattoo on my face.
Yeah.
But point being is, when I got that, I was like, whatever, I'm going to die anyways.
Yeah.
Have fun with it. And have fun with it. And that's all I'm saying is, like, in this whole entire podcast, whether it's plant medicine, whatever tool you need to get to, it doesn't even matter. This whole thing is a big fat game. And up there, I think, in a viewing lounge where, like, there's 144,000 of us that are just, like, in the simulation, and our friends and family are watching us, and they're probably laughing their asses off. And when we come back, they probably take bets and stuff, and we're going to die, and we're going to wake up in the chair, and we're gonna be like, damn it. Like, I don't do it again, man. They're like, oh, you suck, dude. And it's like, it was really like only 20 minutes of that time, And it's like, well, don't you try, bro. Well, don't you get into that 5'6" character and see how you do, man.
Yeah.
And like, and maybe not. Believe whatever you want to believe, but choose a belief that makes you feel good and makes you feel created. I don't care if you believe in Jesus as the savior, if you think Buddhism is the answer, I don't care what you think. It doesn't matter. You're not wrong or right. You just are. And when we can start to realize that, dude, like, that's why we show up like we do. Cause we're like,
100%.
Bro, how are you today? And you're like, bro, how are you today? And I'm like, excellent. And you're like,
pure magic.
Me too. Yeah. And it really, life really can be like this. And I think that's the biggest thing I want to make sure that the viewers understand. They see two guys like us, and they're either like, okay, permafry, or these guys are out of touch with reality. It's one and the same thing. But we're not. It's just that we've tuned into a frequency that this is how we feel.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I'd ever get here, man. Very blessed and grateful. And I feel extremely grateful to connect with you because, again, this is a reverberation, and one like this, you're the first wave of this reverberation. Like you are like the one that's hitting the shore first, dude. Of like, oh, wow, there's other people out there who are just like me.
Dude, that means the world. And I was writing a funny download. One of I joke that, there's another love language. They say there's 5. There's actually 6, right? And the 6th one is analogies, right? And I love analogies. So, and just like, making little rhymes and such. And so as you were saying that, you were saying that, people might view us as a couple guys out of touch with reality. And what I got was, we're not out of touch with reality. We enjoy being into touching reality, right? We're into touching reality, right? Changing that out of to into, right? And I'm a huge language nerd, and to have that reflected, like we'll go on a deep rabbit hole again in another conversation about language, because it's such an important step of this whole thing.
Everything.
It is everything, right? It's spellcasting, right? And
spellcasting.
And to get that reflection from you that I'm the lucky number one that showed up for you is amazing, and vice versa, man. Like, you know, I am a firm believer in the fact, and I've had the direct experience of it, which is, again, the best way to convince someone of something is to have them convince themselves, right? But I'm a firm believer that, what we do, right? The people talk about ROI, right? But again, they talk about quantitatively, external, right? But they don't talk about it internal, right? Like, what do you do for yourself? Why do you eat organic food? Because I honor myself, right? Like core values, all of these things. And so when I see people like you showing up in my reality, I'm like, oh, I'm on a good track, right? Marshall and I get along like, oh, nice to meet you in this lifetime. Glad to see that we've caught up from another lifetime now,
100%.
And those are innate knowings. And the more you get more intuitive, and the more you start to have the experience, again, direct, that intuition is a thing, and that, synchronicities and all of these things, until you experience it for yourself, you might think it's woo-woo, right? And that's fine, right? Because what that will do, if you're a good scientist, right, as I like to say, is you'll go out there and go, I don't think this is true. Let me go try it for myself, right? And then you'll come to your own conclusion, right? The world needs more sovereign beings, right? People to come to their own conclusions, because what happens is when you truly love yourself and you can be a sovereign creature, then if you disagree with someone, you can still be friends with them. You can still laugh with them, right? Look at the
100%.
world right now with the divide and conquer thing going on. That's all because people have not learned to love themselves, and their identity is wrapped into their self-worth, right? And that's another whole wormhole we could go down. But I mean, to see you show up in my reality, man, dude, that is like the biggest gift I've ever received. So
I super appreciate that. And it's true, man, because it's like, I just look at people and I realize, okay, we're all one, first off, and each soul chose their specific character, because that character, it set up the game in a certain way that would allow them to test what they needed to pass the most. And so even now I've gotten to a point, when somebody's being a dick or whatever, I'm just like, bro, good character, man. Like you're really tapped into this lesson, bro. And I'm able to detach from it, which we should probably talk about that sometime too, is the addiction to attachment, which is, well, they say what attachment's the root of all suffering. So
well, it's funny. They talk about money being the root of all suffering. And what is money? I mean, really, it's an attachment to the money that brings the suffering, not money in general. Money is an inert object. It's the same as any plant medicine or whatever. It's like, I got stuck into this for a long time too, especially with cannabis, like we were chatting about before. Like, oh, I used cannabis and I had a bad time. It's like, no, actually, I interacted with a plant and had no idea what I wanted for it. And so therefore, whatever randomly was in my head that day manifested into my reality, right? It had nothing to do with this neutral.
It's just a gateway.
It's just, that just is, right? It had everything to do with the creator in it, right? And until we take that power back for ourselves and say, okay, yes, accountability, right? Like that term is so charged. People think accountability, that stinks. It's like, it sucks for like 30 seconds. And then the other side is pure bliss. Just try it out. Amazing.
Because it's organization. It's just like I said, sacred containers. It just helps you create the containers for your life so you can experience everything. So you have intention behind it. And then everything, again, it's like I've started approaching my life where everything is sort of like a ritual.
Yes.
Why not? It's interesting when I was, and this is not anything, but again, sovereign beings, like having a conversation earlier saying, okay, well, you use cannabis on the weekends, that's awesome. And I was at a point for me too, where I was like, okay, how do I consciously use this? And so for me, what I've really dialed into is really creating what I've called the 1 day routine, is understanding that there's nothing to plan for, because none of it, there's no future, but obviously I'm playing this game. So there is a future. So for me, what I've done is obviously I can't it's like when people tell you, oh, create your ideal day, create your perfect day and live into it. Well, I was a speaker for a long time. Well, I guess I'm still a speaker. I shouldn't disassociate from that. But, so I'd be like, oh, well, my perfect day is like, am I speaking on stage on my perfect day? Because that's like what I love to do the most. But then I was like, is my perfect day really waking up, feeling nervous, stressing to get to the event? Like, that's weird, And then so what I realized is like, okay, like my perfect day is like, oh, I wake up and I have self-care routine, and then I get into work, and then this period is open, and this time I do this. And what that has allowed me to do then is to have more of that actual flow into my life. And so, I just think it's important for the listeners to understand. It's like when we really start to tap into this flow state, it comes with being able to create those sacred containers, like you just said, like being able to really intentionally spend your time. And so when it comes to cannabis, I was like, well, I'll only smoke X. I'll only smoke on the weekends. I'll only do this. I was like, but it's something I like connecting with the plant, because even still, obviously, I have some kind of high energy governor. I don't have a governor.
Yes.
And so for the medicine is able to but I had to repair my relationship with it. And instead of looking at everything, and this has been the hardest thing. And again, I'm very blessed. I work for myself and I have complete financial and time freedom. And so it's like, I'm very blessed. I understand that everybody can do this, but I've been able to look at my life and be like, okay, well, if I was only going to get to live one, like this is my last day, how would I optimize? What would I like to do? I would like to stretch. I'd like to sit out in my yard and stare at the trees. Like you come over my cabin, you're probably going to see me for an hour a day at least, sitting in a rocking chair, literally staring at the mountains and the trees with nothing on but a pair of shorts on my feet, like doing nothing. People like drive by thinking like, what the hell is that guy doing? And so same thing with cannabis. It was like cannabis. I didn't want to, some days I use it and some days I don't, but in my ideal 1 day routine, it's like, yeah, I would medicate, I would medicate. And so for me, it's helped me really focus in on like, okay, how do I be the person I want to be? But again, there's all these limitations. Oh, you can't only work 90 minutes a day, Marshall. Oh, you can't just post content and think you're going to close, multi-$1,000 deals. Like you can't do that. Yeah. Marshall, you got to be inside the Facebook groups and you got like all this. And I just was like, no, that's not how my reality works. Yes. And it didn't start to manifest instantly because I had to reprogram my subconscious mind to not live in fear, to when the money was sent in, to not feel like, oh my God, I hope I can provide. I hope they don't ask for their money back. I had to change all of that shit. And now my life really is like, I got to get it. My slogan should be big chillin', because that's what I say all the time. People are like, what are you doing, dude? I'm like, shit, dude, I'm just big chillin', man. Where I wake up at 4:30 and it's like my workout's already done. All my business stuff is already done. I've already been on multiple calls with my clients. I've already done all of my branding and marketing. I've already uploaded and done all my stuff. Like by the time 10 o'clock comes, it's like, bro, I've already worked like a 14-hour day, and not because I'm better than anybody else, but because I'm highly optimized. Yes. Which if you guys are listening to this show, you guys are going to want to check out Ryan's other show called Highly Optimized, which you guys can find on all podcast platforms. You should go review that right now and subscribe. Oh, I didn't mean for that to flow, but it's going to happen.
Guilty as charged. Marshal, yeah, right. Soon too.
Right. But just like really, optimizing for life, for lifestyle, and I think that's the biggest thing, because I optimized for business success for a long time, and it almost killed me.
Yeah. Yeah, how I always put it is vacation vibration, right? It's a vibration you can live on, right? And you can be there whenever you want, right? You can be there in the grocery store, right? You can be there in traffic, right? Like what a gift traffic is, right? Oh, thank goodness. I thought I wasn't going to get to finish this podcast, right? It's just changing how you think about things, because again, you could either see it as life happening to you. Oh, I'm stuck in traffic. This sucks. Poor me. Or you're still stuck in traffic, but the way you think about it can change. All right. You know what? Maybe I'm stuck here because I was going to die up the street.
100%.
Spirit just saved me, right? Like there, you never know, right? But you get to choose how reality looks. You get to choose if
absolutely
happens for you or to you.
Absolutely, you just select it, dude. So like, this is gonna sound weird for people, because I've really again, you're catching me right in the tail. Like I've been manifesting. like crazy shit, dude. Like things people wouldn't believe that I called that, and then it happens. But it's always been in and out, spotty. And now I know because it was like trauma wasn't healed. But it's been speeding up even more and more lately.
With this whole vacation vibration and all of these states we've been talking about, I keep thinking of like a stereotypical term you hear in the self-development area, which is messy action, right? And really, what is life if not messy action, right? Like for you,
100%.
like it's the worrying, right? Worrying's like a rocking chair. You're rocking, you don't go anywhere type thing, right? And so
it's the worst.
Oh, it's terrible, right? Because it's just wasted energy. You're just burning tires, right? And it's not nearly as cool as a burnout either. So it's not even like you get to see something cool. It's just literally wasting energy.
Dude, worrying is praying for what you don't want, right?
Yes.
And it was my favorite drug to take forever. I mean, for the longest. That actually now I got it back.
Yeah.
And so so I've recently just started to heal. I mean, I feel like I've gotten to a point where I just heal like again, I was like, they're like, okay, passage of this one, like now on to the next stage, which again is going to be the same shit, just different details, different levels, different devils. But so what I've done, dude, is I finally just decided to select exactly what I wanted from my reality, and I just wrote it all down. Which again, I know that everybody knows how this goes, but this is what's weird that people can think is weird. I'm 36, right? But what I've been doing is I've just been pretending, like we were just talking about, bro. I pretend on everything. I know exactly what I want, like material wise, feeling wise, that I want to experience. So every day I get in my Jeep, like I think about the car I want. So like I'll be talking out loud. Again, people think I'm crazy, but I'll be like, there's a couple things I want, So I'll be like, and I'm in this Jeep Patriot. It does not get up and go, right? But I'll be like, when I leave this park here, I'll be going home and I'll be like, I'm gonna picture this as an Aventador. This is gonna be a Lamborghini. Dude. And I'll be like, dude, check out my lamp. I'm like, doesn't this feel bad? And I'll pretend like what it feels like. And I know people think it's great, but I feel it. Or I'll drive past a property like a 100-acre ranch, and I'll be like, and all of a sudden I'll just pretend it's mine. And I'll start talking to them. I'll go, yeah, this is our property here where we do all of our retreats and this and that. And I live into that moment and all these things. And so all of a sudden, my reality is starting to change quickly where this money's coming in and clients are showing up, people that I didn't even know were watching me. And it's like, so the people listening, I'm like, dude, I can't stress enough the reason that you want to heal and the reason that you're going to want to get in touch with all this stuff, because once you can understand yourself, like Ryan says, and you can start to create from the inside out, and then you can get to this weird place where you realize you can have or be anything. Like there is no right or wrong. If you want to be a greedy prick, you can do that. And like, it's not going to be like your experience is going to be rough and alone and there's going to be a lot of turbulation, but it's like you can be and do whatever you want. There's no good or bad. I'm just whatever. So write down what you want, make it something good because it feels good to feel good. And then just pretend like it's yours. When I drive to my cabin, when I drive, like the cabin I live in, dude, it's badass, right? But I'm like, when I drive back there, I pretend like it's my 100-acre property where my wellness center is out here. And like, and I can see them. Like, I just pretend it. And so I know for sure that's just a matter of time until it shows up. And I feel like if more people could tap into the medicine that you're making and they could get to heal themselves and have a better relationship with not just the medicine you work with, but through that medicine, like you say, then being able to understand other areas of their lives better. Like that's why it's so important for your listeners to get involved with what it is you're doing, because when they create that medicine, you create this more sovereign being. Your avatar gets programmed. It plays a better tune, and the better tune that you play, the more stuff you can draw in. If you're really badass at playing that tune, so that's why, yeah, I love to honor my body and all that. Like, I don't say shit. Like, I do believe that. I talk to my water. Like, I'm a weirdo, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, when you start to live like this, the whole thing becomes a joke, and you find pleasure and joy in everything, and you're always laughing. It's like, yeah, probably the years of cannabis makes me a little bit like this, but I'm like this because life is so awesome.
Yes.
And it's a gift. It's a gift in every moment, because
yes,
I could literally die of a stroke right now, live on this thing, and it would be like whatever,
honestly, you bring up something great there. And that's really that, like, I firmly believe that I really pay attention to the people that laugh a lot, that are extremely good, that can make any situation into a comedic one, even like a death situation, a funeral or whatever, can crack a joke, like a good one, in a sense where like, these people are the wisest, the wisest people. And that is what I love doing more than anything. Ask anyone about the retreats I host or anything. I make it fun because I firmly believe that healing does not have to be so serious, right? Like 100%. It can be a fun experience, right? Because again, it's just a state you're moving through, right? So I feel as though with a lot of like the healing things going on, a lot of people are rummaging right now and trying to almost say stuck. No, I have to be super serious. I'm healing right now. And it's like, listen, I get it. And a lot of times it puts so much pressure. And that's why laughter is the best medicine. Like, that's why laughter is the best medicine is a saying, right? Because Great Spirit knew that they would never tune into crying because they'd associate it with being bad. So what's the sister of crying? Laughing, right? Like, I laughed until I cried. Like, that was this huge aha moment I had during a plant medicine ceremony where I hadn't cried. Like, I hadn't sobbed in like, God, over 10 years. And I had to, I swear.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, right when my father passed and all that stuff happened that we talked about in the other podcast. So I had this experience where we did a very big mushroom tea, and I was fully connected, did some rapé and was fully connected. And it was 3 weeks after I did 5-MeO DMT. And I had a reactivation, right? And so I just went super deep. Now, I had an absolute incredible time. My girlfriend got kind of stuck out there, right, for a little while. And I knew we both knew she'd be fine, but I was in my own world, right? And I remember I was just getting these downloads, and I had this moment where I was like, laughter is a lot like crying. And I had been like being comedic as hell. And then in that moment, like it was like the key fit into the lock. And finally I cried, and it was amazing. And there was like moments in crying where I was just laughing, right? They're the same thing. Yeah. It's like anxiety and excitement. Anxiety and excitement are the same feeling.
Same energy.
Different stories cast to them, And so I love 100%. That, man. I love that.
I haven't worked with 5-MeO DMT yet. What's that like?
Wow. It is. It's extremely
qualitative. I'm a little scared.
Honestly, I mean, it is fully dying. Like, I believe it's fully dying. And what you realize, though, is that, like Ram Dass says, death is like taking off a tight shoe, it is. So here's actually something that I'll chat with you about real quick. So I have this very particular breathing breathwork style that I like to bring people through especially when they're on medicines, but even if they're not, right? Because a lot of people are like, listen, I don't want to interact with psychedelics. I'm like, I get it. They're not for everyone, right? But you can hack your body to release your own DMT, right? And do these things you can do through breath work, through meditative states, and allow someone to experience what it is, even if they never want to take anything and just experience it endogenously, right? So one of the things that I've noticed with breath work specifically is that when I'm on a plant medicine and I do this certain style of breathing, it will be like I just hit DMT. Now, it won't last as long. It'll be about 10 to 20 seconds, but it will literally go even sometimes deeper, right? And so when we come back, I've been doing this in big groups, and when we get hit good, right, I'll harmonize everyone with some ohms and then get everyone linked, and we'll do it holding hands, and we'll blast off and literally come back in not knowing who we are, where we are, nothing, right? But it all comes back in like a dream. And what I noticed is that everyone starts laughing hysterically at the exact same time without ever it's like it's completely autonomous, right? And so that really allowed me to like actually ask, why is this laughing happen, right? And then when I did 5-MeO DMT, I was hysterically crying, laughing, like all the emotions are pouring through, and I realized, oh my God, we're laughing because we're realizing like viscerally that death is the easiest part of life, that this whole thing is a joke. Like, that is what it is, man. That's what laughter is. Laughter is remembering that life is infinite, right? You're not taking yourself too seriously. You're not taking life too seriously. That's what laughter is. And that's why it's the best medicine, right? That was like the big...
Bro, that story, hearing that story is like, because you're so right, dude. I mean, there's so much to unpack in that. And I think like, for the listeners, it's, was that the first time that you had really gotten through the feeling of overcoming fear of death or something?
No, but it was, so actually it was almost different. It was the time in which like it started happening, and I was like, whatever, like I'm fine with it. Let's go. Cause I knew, I'm like, worst case scenario. And like, this is going to get a little morbid, but like worst case scenario, I die. Right. And in that, a pinky nail of me is gone, right? Like, so I know that innately. Now, obviously, I'm not going out there making like, silly decisions or anything. I knew I was safe. I knew I had prepared correctly. But really, it's like, what am I really afraid of? Because I love asking a question. You know this from coaching. Like, coaching is basically a Control-Alt-Delete, right? So what I like to do to myself when I'm starting to worry is Control-Alt-Delete myself, right? So I just ask myself, what is the real problem here? Right. And like, if you're going through anything, just ask yourself, what is the real problem? Right. And innately something will come through. And for me, I realized like with doing 5-MeO, I was fully ready. Like I felt ready. Like I felt ready to experience it. And for those listening, like I think you mentioned it earlier, Marshall, like not everyone is meant to do plant medicines at all, period. Right. Ever. And then also there's people that like doing them more often, less often. Like everyone in theory, should be going for what they're getting called to do from their soul, right? I know part of my purpose on this planet is I am a medicine man, right? I am someone who has interacted with medicines for many lifetimes, and I'm okay with going out there exploring.
No wonder we're connected.
Right? Guilty as charged, man. I was saying it right.
Oh,
I saw
that's
your
right.
thing on your profile, Modern Medicine. And I was like, we're best friends, you know? And it's like,
oh, that makes so much sense.
So I have a name for us, right? And I'll say this again. I think I've only said this twice in the show so far. So I basically have this theory, right? That if the ethereal realm is where we come from, right? The ethereal realm is where we come from, then there are different types of individuals that live in this ethereal realm, right? And so as we're coming back, as we're deciding to embark on a journey of 4D reality, 3D reality, 5D reality, whatever you decide, a physical experience, right? At first, you're like, I'm really nervous about going down there, being separate from, what I am. I mean, that sounds terrifying. So I'm going to go down as a fly, right? So you go down, you get a look around for 7 days and you're back, right? And you're like, whoa, that was crazy. And every time you start dipping your toes more and more, okay, I'll be a bird, get a more expansive look around. All right, now I'll be a tortoise. So I won't do much, but I'll get a really good idea.
Oh my God, I never thought about it like that.
And then you reach a level where you're like, all right, I'm going to be a human. And at that level, you have now reached the extreme sporter stage of the ethereal realm. You're an ethereal extreme sporter. That's like my whole thing. Like the group I put people in, everything is ethereal extreme sporters, right? There are certain people that are just ultra curious and they're willing to really
that's so funny.
Like think about
interesting.
Yeah. And like, think about like how scared. I mean, I'll talk about my own personal experience. I was so scared of death, of all of these things, of messing with my grasp on reality, right? And now I'm someone who actually invites it in, right? I enjoy like allowing my ego to dissolve, right? And I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm not saying that like there's times where I'm like, holy shit. But I am saying that there's a calling where I really enjoy doing that. It's a passion of mine, right? And that can be, again, even if I never did another plant medicine, through breath work, through meditation, through whatever. But the thing is that there are certain people that are just extreme sporters and stuff, right? Like, for instance, I've never had a calling to put on a squirrel suit and go diving through the air at hundreds of miles an hour, right? It doesn't make me a better or worse person than someone, but it does make it does make them an extreme sporter, period, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that they're on a pedestal. It's just, hey, you're an extreme sporter, man. You like doing some wild shit, and that's what I call people like you and I. It's just people that really like testing the waters, right? In the realm of consciousness. So we're consciousness extreme sporters.
I love that. I always think that, I always believe that, we progress through consciousness levels, one dimension, second dimension, third dimension, different variations of each of these, which I think is very interesting. But to describe it of how we move through, I love that. I think it's also important for the, listeners to know, if they don't know, because you mentioned something at the very beginning of this, and it's like, we have enough DMT floating around in our brain that if it was another substance, like psilocybin, for example, we would be deemed legally high.
Yes.
And so, the shamans always talk about life is an illusion. The great Maya, it's an illusion. And if there's enough DMT to make us high, then really, how do we know what we're experiencing is not a hallucination? What science is interesting about science, again, I keep going back to, because I was like, oh, well, prove it to me. Now I've created the space for me to believe it. But it's like, science can't prove where sight is. They know it's not stored in the eyeball, and your brain can't create the image of sight. So everything you see, like, where is it actually happening at? Like, there's not a mechanism in your human body that like makes sight happen.
Yes.
And so we've got to understand is that, like, what Ryan's talking about is that, again, wow, whoever designed this must have been the greatest creator, because there's little hacks all over. Like, if you eat beef liver, or you pop little blueberries, or like there's a little vitamin that can level your character up. And if you do this crazy breath work, you can tap into DMT, and you can use action to naturally heal your body. And you can get like it's the ultimate cheat code. It's why we call it biohacking, these primal hacks. And so I love that you mentioned that, because if people realize you don't just have to use plant medicine, but for me, using plant medicine allowed me to go, oh, that's what this feels like. So now when I'm able to get there and I'm able to move my spinal fluid, I'm able to create that awakening, I'm able to really squeeze that in and activate that in my brain. And I have that feeling, I go, oh, that's it. That's what it is. But I didn't know until I knew. And so but again, I can't stress this enough. And I say this about anything. The one thing that changed my life is self-education and mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
Being willing to go out and do the research myself, but being willing to ask for help. But not only that, it's like, I wish in school they just would have taught us that, hey, did you know, whatever you want to be, just go find somebody out in the world who's already having success doing that and then learn from them. Like if they would have told me that when I was a child, I would have been like, that's it. And so why I'm saying that is because all these things we talk about, like you can literally follow Ryan daily and watch what he's doing. And it's like people like Ryan and I, again, it makes so much sense. Of course you're a medicine man, because we've been doing this in multiple lifetimes, creating medicine for like, this is what we do.
Yes.
Man, that blows my mind. Of course you make medicine. But what I'm saying is that like, maybe your calling is not to make medicine. Okay. Not everybody's called to jump in squirrel suits through the air at high speeds, or to fly airplanes, or to drive NASCAR. All right. To be a coach, to be a medicine person. But if you want to know how to literally hack your reality, be able to tap into your ultimate potential, there's all cheat codes everywhere. And it's so simple, but we don't know it's simple until we do it. And that's why you want to connect with people like Ryan, who can just go, yo, don't take 10 years to learn this like I did. Let me explain to you this in 6 weeks. And then let me help you master it over time.
You know what I love about what you just said, right? Is you've made the progression, right? And what I mean by that is that really, what is the most valuable resource, right? A lot of people think it's money, but really it's time, right? Because if you have time, you can always make more money. But if you have money and no time, you're dead, right? And so really, like, the reason why you work with mentors and coaches is not like people are like, oh my God, it's so much money. Okay, well, how much money is it worth to you to save time, right? And the great thing about hiring a mentor and a coach and actually learning from someone who does this is results don't lie. So you can easily just check into someone. Hey, are you getting the results I want? If so, awesome. I want to now learn from you. If not, then I'm not, right? And so that's a great way to move through a lot of the stickiness in society right now. There's so many people talking. There's so much mainstream media, whatever. When this whole COVID thing happened, I looked at the people that I was listening to, or that were, trying to get me to listen to them. And I just went, they're not getting the results I want. So I'm not going to listen to them, right? Doesn't make me a conspiracy theorist. Doesn't make me anything. It just means like, I'm not not
aligned with that.
Yeah. I'm not going to take health advice from someone who clearly isn't healthy. It's like, that doesn't 100%. Make any sense, And when I looked at the people who were getting the results I want, who I trust and who I work with a lot, it was a much different narrative. Right. And so that's the final thing I wanted to say on that is like, for anyone listening, like, if you want a result, find someone just like Marshall said, getting that result, because obviously something they're doing is working. And then you can actually learn from them and discern for yourself if that is the way you want to get that result. But at least you're learning from someone who actually has the ability to teach you what
100%.
You want to learn,
Yeah, and I think that's so valuable. There's a quote that I used to say all the time on stage, and it's that, broke people spend time to save money, but wealthy people spend money to save time. And it's interesting because and from a Western approach to accomplishing that is very true. And again, it's like, for me personally, I'm in a new space now where, again, where I was telling you earlier, I'm trying to dissolve time because I know it's not real. Now, obviously, I got to stay kind of plugged into the matrix because I run a coaching business within the matrix. And so I have to be accountable to deadlines and stuff. But having the opportunity to dissolve time, but not knowing what day it is, or not allowing it to matter as much. And so the thing of it is, I would even take it the next step further as saying, okay, well, yeah, you can always make more money, but you never get back time. But like, time is literally, which I know that Ryan, a man-made construct. It's not, there's nothing to it. It's only right now. And so when we talk about making investments, everybody goes, oh, what's the ROI? What's the return on my investment? But the question that people aren't asking is, what is the COI, which is the cost of inaction? Like, that's great, but what is the cost of your inaction? What if you don't change today? How much is that going to cost you? What's another year of you feeling like this? And so again, I still want to take time out of it. And so it really comes down to, how often do you hate your experience? How often are you miserable? how and it's not even about having more time. It's just like, who knows how much time you have left, but how much would you be willing to invest right now to never have to feel like that again, or to be able to know how to manage that feeling? Like when I'm looking at something like the last Oreo, or should I put that little bit more honey on my oatmeal, right? And this sounds silly, but like what I always say to myself in that moment, and again, because this is a slippery slope too with addiction and compulsion and gluttony, but I'll say, if I die tonight, would I look back down? Will I be glad that I saved that last Oreo? Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, so again, looking at life in this approach of understanding, like, dude, the reason you want to, The reason you want to be around people like Ryan is not even to collapse time, because this again, and I know you will agree, man. Because that's what I sell. That's what I'm telling too. Like, look, collapse time, but we only have to do that because we have to get through to our people in this physical realm. But really, the secret, the thing that means the most is energy, because everything is energy, and the more you can feel an amazing energy, the better your experience is, and it has nothing to do with time or money. So when we can start to remove these things, and it really becomes like, yo, what amount of energy would you be willing to trade to tap into that power grid? Like, I don't know if you've ever been to a music festival. I'm sure you have, but like let's go to say Coachella, right? Yep. You go to Coachella, like finding a place to plug in your phone is fucking gold. Okay. Yeah. And even when you finally do get one, it takes forever to charge your phone. You may get it back to 23% before you're like, okay, let's go, right?
Yeah.
Point being is that there's a difference between plugging into that and plugging into the one at home that you know is going to charge your shit in 10 minutes.
Yes.
And that's exactly what I look for when I talk about mentorships. You want to look for somebody that has results, somebody whose clients have results, and somebody who has reviews, and then somebody who's making content that shows that they actually live the life that they're doing. And if you can find those 4 things in a mentor, who gives a shit how much money you have to take with you, or even how much time it is? Because the reality of it is what energy do you want to be in this universe, in this world? Because once you, like I said, and I know you know, dude, it's like for our listeners, it's like once you start to feel that, you start to manifest in a way that you never have. You know, it's like you stop doing and being. I'm sure you've heard of do, have, be versus be, have, do. And so when you can live from that spot of waking up and instead of what do I have to do, but who do I have to be? And you can tap into the energy. Like, imagine if you got to see Ryan once a week, or if you got to be on a call with Ryan when you needed, like your shit would be easier, because the energy that he taps you into is one when it's like, yeah, I know that somebody just died, but let's cut the tension and have a little laugh here, because like, we can't just be sad forever. Yeah. And so I think that's what's so important by people to realize about mentorship. It's why I literally just, after 5 years of selling courses and one-on-one coaching and all this, bro, I finally gave it all up. And not that there's anything against coaching. For me, I sold so many courses, and I was like, 95% of people don't do this. How is it that 5% of people can take this and go make $114 million, but the 95% you don't do shit with it? And it became such a disconnect, because I realized that there's no amount of knowledge I can give anybody. It's energy. And so now it's like, that's why I only sell retreats, or I only sell like my mastermind, because I'm like, the only thing you can pay me for now is my energy, because nothing else is of any value. And so it's a weird exchange, but I just think it's like, I want people to, and I know that's what you do is energy work. Like that's essentially what you're doing. And so it's like, I can't stress enough the importance of energy, man. Energy is everything, man.
It so is, and I love that, man. It's so important too. And, really it's the same thing with finding the right medicine man, right? Like what we're talking about, you can replace mentor, coach with medicine man, whatever, shaman, 100%. It's really like, this is great, like foundational ground rules for life, right? In general, that old saying, you are the collection of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? This is a great, like little like personal questionnaire to bring them through before you spend time with them, right? And I love that, man. We've gone on such an amazing riff.
Man. Thanks. I appreciate it. I was trying to go for. Wasn't trying to go forever. We just keep talking about it, dude.
I was going to tell you that, this is exactly why I made this podcast, because these are the conversations that the world is craving right now, right? We're done with small talk, right?
Oh, so many people 100%.
And really, like what you and I are both aligned on, like at the core of our beings, is just allowing people to take their power back, right? To become happy, truly happy in whatever way they do it. And really what we get to be is channels to talk about our experiences and say, hey, you down to go try it? Like, hit us up.
That's it.
Here for, and
bro, that's it. Just conduits. Just a conduit.
Exactly.
I don't do anything, dude. I tell people come to my retreats and they're like, oh my God, you changed my life and all this stuff. I'm like, bro, I didn't do anything. I just created the container. God and like you and nature did everything. Like I didn't do anything. Okay. Just so you know, I just got you all here.
Yes.
But the one thing I do want to say real quick is that one of the reasons I'm so connected with you and what you're doing, and why I want to tell the whole world about it, is because this is something I've been really big on lately. First off, I think that entrepreneurs, I think they're the superheroes of the matrix, because it's like, let's be honest, not everybody can look out into the matrix and see a problem and create a solution and make money. And so when people ask, oh, well, what's one superpower you wish you could have? I'm always like, dude, making money. You kidding me? That is a superpower, because there are people out in the matrix that will never have an opportunity to make any money. Third world countries, different situations that'll never have an opportunity to make money, no matter what you say. We can preach until we're blue in the face, but in their soul contract in this life, they're not. And so as entrepreneurs, we have this ability this superhuman ability to be a blessing, for God to work through us. And so the reason I say that is because now when it comes to the one thing I found about entrepreneur space is what you were talking about in my podcast, which was like, I was in the cannabis industry, kind of got burnt out on it. Then I was like, oh, I'll go try it again. And it felt even ickier because I was even more awake. And I realized there's even more unhealed trauma in the space. That's what I went through too with the speakers. And so the reason I say that is because it's like, dude, if I could just help you too, if I could just help more leaders and people and superheroes in the matrix heal themselves, so then their gifts are more aligned and they can go out. It's like, that's how I know I make the biggest difference. And so why I'm telling this to the audience is because what we've done in Western society, and it's because they programmed us, they've made it like this, but we've gotten so perfect at compartmentalizing every single thing in our experience, which is to create division in everything. And so if you are going to look for a coach, if you are going to look for a superhero to help mentor you, my advice would be to stop compartmentalizing your mentorship and your coaching. Oh, I got to get a personal trainer. I got to get a business coach. I got to get a mindset coach. Those are all great, but we're waking up into a new age where there are medicine men and medicine women, and call them what you will, but people like Ryan, people like me who have business acumen, physical knowledge, knowledge about physical health, emotional health, mental health, spiritual health, plant medicine, different modalities of healing. And so the only thing I could say to listeners, that if you're at a point where you're going to look for somebody, don't move away from the old thing where we're compartmentalizing the people we're helping. Find you an entrepreneur, somebody has a superhero making money, who can help you learn how to sharpen your skill, which I do it through the lens of a warrior. You know, warriors are people that can go out and hunt, but they know how to be and they know how to protect and be grounded. It's like the great eagle, right? The great spirit. But point being is, if you're looking for a mentor, that's why I'm so connected to you, because I'm like, okay, this is a dude who's doing everything. He's got everything, right? And that's how I am. I'm like, I'm doing everything, and not from a sense of ego, like I'm doing it all, but I'm like, yo, I started off as a personal trainer 8 years ago, and then I did this and this and this, and I thought the whole time I just sucked and that I was never going to get it right, and I was a failure. And then realize what it really was is that I had to collect and go use all of this medicine, all of these different things. So now here at this point, it's like, yeah, dude, I've built 9-figure businesses, and I've traveled the world, and I've healed my trauma, and I've been through terrible relationships, and I've had kids, and I've been divorced, and I've attempted suicide, and all these crazy things. And same with you. And so if you guys are listening to this, I'm telling you, don't just go find your boring ass business coach or a sales, because that doesn't, none of that's real. Yes. It's not bad. And those people aren't doing it on purpose. They're not maliciously trying to do anything. They don't know what they don't know, you know? And so don't go, I wouldn't suggest, if you want the most experience, you want the best fulfillment from this experience, this living experience of life, I would go align with people like Ryan, who can help you level up in every area through an elongated period of time. Somebody tells you they can solve your problem in 30 days or 6 weeks or 6 months. They're lying to you, and they just want your money. They may not be that malicious about it, but that's what they're doing, because we need to eat. But it's longer than that. This is a dedication. Bruce Lee says, what? No, if you're the man that practices 10,000 kicks, I feel the man that practices one kick 10,000 times. And that's how people, I feel, should look at their development: spiritual, emotional, physical, mental development, lifestyle development.
Yes, dude. I love that, man. That was beautifully poetically said. And I really couldn't agree more, you know, and really what you're looking for is a holistic approach, spelled WHOLISTIC, you know, and that is the cosmic giggle, you know,
Cool, bro.
By focusing on the whole picture, you know, you really allow it to have the sum of its parts, right? Like, and I love that, man. And so, Marshal, where can I send people, man, to connect with you, to learn from you, to work with you? Like, where's the best place? What's the show? Where do you find your show? All that.
Yeah. Listen, look, I'm on every single social media platform. I'm on every podcast platform. If you type in the Marshal Gillen Show, or if you type in Marshal Gillen, you will find me on whatever your social media platform is. There's so many different things I offer. I mean, I have retreats, and I do free meditations, and I do, free healing work. But I don't care about all that. Truly, what I want to do is I really want to just get to know more people. I spent my life traveling around the globe, making these fake connections of people who really loved me, but I was never able to feel. And so if you really want to follow me, or you want to get to know me, just follow me on Instagram or somewhere. Just DM me like a real person, like, yo, bro, what's up? And like, I do have ADD, and I am always out in backcountry, which I never have service. But when I come back, like, even if it's 3 or 4 days later, like, I'm like, yo, Ryan, what's up, bro? Like, dude, it's so good to hear from you today, because I just like connecting with people.
Yeah.
So come connect with me, follow me on Instagram, get to know me. I want to get to know you. I want to know what you're about. Maybe I'll have you on my show. Maybe I'll be on your show. Who knows? Maybe you haven't even thought about starting a show yet, but now that I'm talking about it, you're like, damn it. Yep, I'm going to start a show. And reach out to Ryan and me, and we'll come be guests on your show, and we'll help you kick it off. Because I'm just here to create a space to love all and serve all. So at Marshal Gillen on any platform, at Marshal Gillen. I'm sure you can click on a link somewhere. But yeah, dude, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for having me. Like, what a pleasure. What a really cool thing you're on, a journey you're doing. And to finally have a conversation started about this is so cool, man. I'll be promoting you and sharing you when and where I can, for sure.
Hell yeah, bro. Thank you so much. And
of course,
man, I got so much love for you, bro. And I have one more question for you if you're up.
Oh, bro, lay it on, man. Yeah, 100%.
So if someone listening was just swayed by you to experience psychedelic medicines for the first time, what piece of advice would you give them to allow them to have the smoothest experience possible?
It's a really good question. And so I like when people say how we do one thing's how we do everything, right? And so I always find it curious. I'm like, well, if you're willing to update your iPhone as soon as the new downloads come in, but you're not willing to update your health, like you're probably out of alignment. And so if you are in a place where you're ready to find some alignment, there's a couple ways you can do it. If you're driving down the road and your car breaks down and you don't know how to fix it, you can YouTube that shit. And that's what I would do. I would say, hey, whatever problem you become aware of that you want to fix in your life, write it down. Write down the emotions that you feel from that problem that triggers it, and then write down the story that you were telling yourself. Like, get clear on that. And then I would just start using Google and YouTube. And that's literally what I would do because I can't tell you. And without getting a chance to sit down and talk to you, I can't tell you what medicine you need, which means that you have to educate yourself. Now, that's one way to do it. If I'm driving down the road, I don't know anything about cars, bro. So if somebody's listening to this and think about plant medicine and they know as much about plant medicine as I know about cars, which is like nothing, I can change my oil and I can change my tires. Yeah. But like if my car breaks down, I personally, dude, I'm not going to YouTube and Google how to fix it. Like I don't get down like that. I'm like, that just help me alleviate this problem. I got to go to the gym. I got to get some food, right? Yeah. Trying to meet some ladies. Like they're trying to find Mrs. Marshall. Yeah. And so if somebody's listening to this, and truly, I would not try to do this alone. The reason that 90% of people fail in life is because they try to do this journey all alone, whether it's from pride or insecurity. So if I had one piece of advice, how to do this, and I mean this most sincere. I don't just say things the same. If you follow me online, you know, like I'm the real, I keep it real for all the years I've done this. I would reach out to Ryan and I would get involved with, he has a new class coming up. It depends what time you're listening to this. Maybe you're listening to this 3 years from now and Ryan has a whole entire event that's called Connect with Cannabis or Connect with Plants or something. But what I would do is I would reach out to Ryan and I would ask him for his specific advice. Like not like a generalized blanket, like, yo, how do I make more money? Like, I don't even know your skill set. I can't tell you how to heal in one question. I know that's not what you're asking. So for the listener, it's like, Ryan and I, not only could we not do that, we would never presume to do that. And so what I would do is if you had a cough or you felt something, you would go to the doctor and say, yo, doc, like I'm not feeling the best. If you're feeling burnt out, if you're feeling lost, if you're feeling numb, if you're feeling like you just don't know where to go, if you feel like you've been doing everything, but you just don't feel a connection to yourself or nothing means anything anymore, then what I would do is I would go to Ryan's Instagram, I would click on his bio, and I think it's literally the first link at top. It says, yo, schedule a free session. He's like, yo, I don't have all the time, but I created a sacred space. There's only these amount of slots. If you go click on one, you can have one for free and I will give you medicine. Like, it's like urgent care. It's like urgent care. And so it's like, dude, again, not a long-winded answer, long story longer, but like literally that's what I would do. I have made a habit of my life of going out and I don't waste time anymore. I just go to the source. Who's got the information I wanted? I went to you and I was like, bro, I want to know the specific question. I want to have you on my show. So if you're listening to this and you want to know, don't try to do it alone. It's pointless. Go reach out to Ryan. He'll make it work for you some way or another. Get involved and work with a professional who can guide you through it. I tell my clients, they pay me handsomely, and I tell them, most likely I'm not going to teach you anything new. I'm here to get you to take action on things you already know, because a lot of times what we're really looking for is affirmation that we're not doing it wrong. That's it. I mean, I've again, almost over $250,000 in the last 4 years into my personal development business mastery, where I've sat in high-level mastermind rooms just to hear somebody go, no, you're already doing it right. And I'm like, oh, so it's just time and patience. Like,
money
yeah, bro,
well
just wait. And exactly.
It is.
Exactly.
Like, sarcastically, it is.
No, So invest your time, your money, and energy. Learn from Ryan. He'll tell you exactly what to do. He'll guide it for you specifically, so you're not shooting in the dark, trying to guess what it is you should or shouldn't be doing, because it's not one size fits all. And you need to talk to the professional who can help you create that space. So my answer would be to reach out to Ryan, get connected with them. He's got an opportunity to talk to him for free. And if you need more help, he can offer you more help. But chances are you're going to have a lot of information to integrate from that one call. But most you're going to want to take the next step, because you're going to want to fix your car as soon as possible. You're not going to want to dick around with trying to figure out how to fix something you don't know how to fix. It's pointless.
I love that, man, and thank you so much. I
of course, bro,
received that, man, and
of course,
you guys, I got you. Hit me up, let me know what's going on, and I can help you out with it. And that's what we live for. We live for it, and that's why, that's why I love giving people a free session, because I'm like, listen, I don't want your money unless it's actually worth it to you. So try it out, and if it's not, no hard feelings, cool. Go find someone who works for you, right?
100%.
If it is, and you're like, okay, now you know exactly what you're in for, because coaching and all these things are kind of like, what does that even mean, right? Like, because there's so many different types of coaching, and so that's one of the main reasons I do that, because it really just puts the offer on the table. It's like, listen, if you're ready to be accountable and to commit, then I'm ready for you.
But that's exactly what it is that investment's a proof of commitment. Because I know what it takes to do this, and I'm not going to mess with somebody unless they're willing to commit an amount of energy that I know is going to take, and that's that exchange. And I think a lot of people should know is like, I don't want I've taken plenty of money where I wasn't aligned with the client over my years, and it's bad money. I shouldn't say bad, but like unaligned money, you feel guilty, or you have to show up and you have to literally put the client on your back and carry them through the session. They're not going to do it. It's like, none of us want that. So just like, go take a car for a spin, get a little taste. I guarantee you're going to be like, okay, I'm about to make the best investment I've ever made. Let me learn.
Hell yeah. Guys, when Marshall first contacted me, I immediately could sense that his energy was authentic and that he was someone I was curious of learning more about and from. After connecting with him and hearing what he says about many of the same topics I speak about, it was amazing to have the opportunity to go on his podcast and double-head it by having him on this one time on Psychedelics. Marshall knows firsthand what these plants can do when used responsibly and consciously, and is a living testament to what can transpire within ourselves when we hear the call from within and meet it with dedication, commitment, and love. And speaking of love, doing this show is something I love from the bottom of my heart, and I would be so grateful if you could spread awareness of the show by sharing it with your friends and family and leaving reviews on iTunes. Together, we can reverse the stigma on these plants and leave the Garden of Earth greener, pun intended, than we found it. Marshall, thank you so much again for sharing your time, wisdom, and knowledge with us today. And until next time, my brother, may your journey be smooth and full of light. Aho.